Chapter 35:12. Just as Beigua Zhenming and Dou Shanjun were talking, the clouds woven from the five-colored cloud brocade suddenly froze. A layer of five-colored cloud brocade surged from one end of the sky to the other like a tidal wave. Then, the entire five-colored cloud brocade covered the entire black cloud ridge. As the five-colored cloud brocade fell, a loud and clear sound of metal rang out from the clouds. It turned out that the five-colored cloud brocade was instantly covered by a rolling blood-colored brilliance. Hee, Lang Chinga's golden spear iron horse has been activated. Let's see if the state teacher of the Bronze Pillar country can win in one strike. Beigua Zhenming raised his eyebrows. A layer of earthen yellow energy appeared in his eyes. His pupils actually diverged, forming two overlapping pupils. Dou Shanjun was naturally also concerned. He hurriedly used the clear eyes technique to look below the clouds. Inside the cave, Xiaohua sat with his eyes closed. The black bear spirit and the others were not beside him. Even Xiao Jian and the others were not around. Only Lu Yi, who was on his left, held a horsetail whisk in his hand. He calmly looked to his right. Wang Bianfei was standing there curiously, looking around the cave. Everything was new. Wang Bianfei. Xiaohua sat on the high platform. He suddenly opened his eyes and said, "Yes, master." Wang Bianfei hurriedly retracted his gaze and replied with a bow. "Master will go out for a walk. You and your senior brother look after the door." Xiaohua stood up and said indifferently. Wang Bianfei did not dare to be negligent. He replied, "Yes, master. Disciple understands. Disciple will definitely seize the time to learn from senior brother. Disciple will be able to understand other people's words as soon as possible." Lu Yi at the side could not understand Xiaohua and Wang Bianfei's words. However, he could guess that Xiaohua was really reminding him. Sure enough, Xiaohua said to Lu Yi, "Lu Yi, master, please speak. You have to teach Wang Bianfei how to speak normally." Xiaohua said, "But master." Lu Yi was in a difficult position. "I don't understand what Wang Bianfei is saying. He also doesn't understand what I'm saying. How can I teach him?" "I won't worry about this," Xiaohua said with a smile. "I've already taught him the qi refinement technique. If you want to know how to cultivate, you have to get it from him." Lu Yi's eyes lit up. He hurriedly smiled and said, "Yes, master. I understand. In addition, call the demons of Mo Yun Ridge and Lion Mountain into the formation. This old man has already expanded the array formation a little. It's enough for them to use." Xiaohua flew out of the Immortal's cave. As he flew, he said, "All of you must not leave the formation during the battle. The great formation outside the Black Cloud Ridge is no small matter. Other than this old man, no one in the Black Cloud Ridge can resist this formation." "I understand." Lu Yi carefully followed Xiaohua out of the Immortal's cave. Wang Bianfei was also quick-witted, following behind Lu Yi in small steps. Similarly, he was exceptionally well-behaved. Xiaohua walked out of the cavern, only to see that his eyes were filled with the color of blood. Bugle horns resounded from the horizon, and the neighs of war horses resounded simultaneously. The entire Black Cloud Ridge seemed to have turned into a bloody battlefield. Hee, this is getting interesting. Xiaohua looked around, only to see the thousands of demons and many soldiers in the Black Wind Ridge. Although they had a kind of curiosity on their faces, there was no panic in their eyes at all. It was obvious that they were extremely confident in themselves. Under the Black Wind Ridge, the subordinates of the Golden Eagle and White Lion entered the formation in groups in an orderly manner. There was no panic at all. They were all in good order. After Xiaohua finished watching, auspicious clouds appeared under his feet, and he directly flew into the air. The black bear spirit in the distance very considerately knelt on the ground and shouted, "This little one respectfully sends master off. I wish master a triumphant return." The black bear spirit's kneeling was not important, but the golden eagle, white lion, and the other demons all knelt down. "This little one respectfully sends master off. I wish master a triumphant return." Their voices were like the sound of mountains, drifting in the Black Wind Ridge. It was truly a spectacular sight. Looking at Xiaohua's hand, it seemed like he wanted to summon thunder to boost his might. Unfortunately, the sky was filled with heavy clouds. Where could the lightning be produced? Rumble! Xiaohua sneered, a green light appeared between his eyebrows, as if a deity was groaning. Layers of heavenly thunder immediately resounded above the black wind ridge, like the sound of war drums. Xiaohua flew into the air, coldly looking at the place where the bugle horn came from, only to see that the horizon was crimson like blood. Layers of red clouds surged out, diffusing towards the entire sky. When Xiaohua just stood still, there was no wind, but as the clouds moved, a gentle breeze blew up Xiaohua's clothes. The black wind that just appeared stood straight in the wind, showing a kind of unyielding spirit. Woo! As if the sky changed, a kind of violent wind suddenly rose. Following the violent wind, the sound of the bugle horn became even louder, and then, a solemn and stirring chant floated over from the distance. Grape wine in a luminous cup if you want to drink, the pipa immediately urges you, lying drunk on the battlefield. Don't laugh, since ancient times, how many people have returned from a campaign? Golden vulture plume, embroidered with swallowtail arc alone to raise the new order. 1,000 camps cry out together. In the dark forest, the grass is frightened by the wind. The general draws his bow in the night. Looking for the white feather in the light, it is not among the stone ridges. Under the black moon, the wild goose flies high. Chanyu escapes in the night. Wanting to drive away the light cavalry, the heavy snow covers the bow and saber. Open the field, the fine banquet. The Chong tribe's congratulations are in full swing. Drunk and golden armor dance. The thunder agitates the mountains and rivers. Adjusting the arrow and calling the hawk, all of them are out of this world. Rushing fox will rush the pheasants, sweeping the ancient hills. 7 leaves of the pavilion, empty and clear in a corner. He is inscribed in the Qilin pavilion. Only he is not famous. Along with the sound of the bugle horn that made people's blood boil, many large inscriptions fluttered in the air, and within those scarlet clouds, there was an awe-inspiring aura that came crashing down, condensing in front of these inscriptions. In just a short moment, blood-red warhorses were born. Not only that, the inscriptions flew high into the sky, condensing into a poem. Between each line of the poem, an awe-inspiring aura surged and overflowed, similarly condensing into several zhang-long spears. A chill, a smell of blood emerged from the warhorses that were about to gallop, pouncing toward Xiaohua amidst the forest of sharp spears. Hee hee. Xiaohua laughed and said in a long voice, "It is often said that Confucian cultivators do not change their names, nor do they change their surnames. Now this Xiao has already been standing here for a long time, and not a single person has shown themselves. This kind of shady behavior, what qualifications do you have to dare fight with this Xiao?" Humph. A Taoist remnant, unexpectedly speaking such arrogant words. A voice that was even louder than the sound of the bugle horn came from the blood-red warhorse. As soon as this voice came out, all the clouds rolled back, and then a celestial that seemed to be wearing blood-red armor slowly appeared from the void. This celestial was more than 200 feet tall, with a thin face, a hook-like nose, and a pair of eyes that flashed with a cold light. Looking from a distance, this person was wrapped in a Confucian robe embroidered with mountain and river patterns. Various mountain peaks and great rivers were faintly discernible on the Confucian robe. That dignified and vigorous aura was emitted from the Confucian robe, and outside the Confucian robe was a battle armor that protected his chest and back. The battle armor was like a bai-en, with countless flashing inscriptions covering the celestial's chest and back, and a fierce beast head with a sharp horn on its head protecting the celestial's abdomen. Under the blood-red brilliance, countless strange runes flowed out from the battle armor, spreading along the torso to the celestial's limbs. Every time these runes flowed, countless small noble chi would be produced from the void, condensing into a spiral shape and falling on the celestial's skin. Looking at the celestial's hand again, it was holding a long spear. The spear was pitch black without any luster, and the tip of the spear was without a sharp edge. It looked quite unfortunate. Humph. Who are you? The corner of Xiaohua's mouth rose slightly as he looked up at the giant flying over on a red cloud in the distance. Who are you? The giant shouted. Since you're in front of the battle, how dare you not report your name? With the giant's roar, a murderous aura rushed toward Xiaohua from all directions. Ha ha ha, asking without answering is rude. Speaking with a fierce voice is losing your mind. How can someone as disrespectful as you be a match for this Xiao? Xiaohua laughed, his whole body flashing with golden light. With a wave of his hand, the wishful steel staff appeared from the space. His whole body slowly grew, and the wishful steel staff also grew. When it was about 200 feet long, Xiaohua shouted, shaking the sky. Dao sect Xiaohua is here, who dares to fight? Xiaohua's aura was like a rainbow, and the pressure of a nascent soul cultivator soared into the sky. Not only did it push back the clouds in the sky, but it also rushed toward the giant like an avalanche. This old man is the state preceptor of the Bronze Pillar State, Xianxia. I've come specially to deal with you, a remnant of the Dao sect. Xianxia also let out a loud roar and slapped his forehead. A golden light flashed above his head and a golden spear flew out, forcefully blocking Xiaohua's oppressive aura. Good. Xianxia, let this Xiao see if you are qualified to fight with this Xiao. Xiaohua didn't say anything else. He waved the wishful steel staff and flew toward Xianxia. But before he could fly closer, Xianxia's words almost made him faint from anger. Xianxia swung his spear and retreated, coldly shouting, "This old man is the teacher of a state. How can I lower myself to fight with you? Let this old man see if you are qualified to fight with this old man." Damn it! Xiaohua was furious. He abandoned the flying technique and lightning flashed around his body. He wanted to use the Imperial Thunder Guard, but the lightning was annihilated as soon as it appeared. There was no lightning in the Confucian cultivator's array. Seeing Xiaohua angry, Xianxia laughed and chanted, "At night, I lie down and listen to the wind and rain. Iron horses and ice rivers enter my dreams. Generals, kill for this old man." Xianxia chanted word by word. Pillars of qi that penetrated the heavens and the earth were born from the 5 brocade cloud diagram and suddenly rushed toward Xiaohua. Following the command, the thousands of roaring blood-red horses behind Xianxia broke free of their reins. At first, they were only the size of an ordinary horse, but when they rushed in front of Xiaohua, they were dozens of feet long. They didn't seem to be inferior to Xiaohua's Dharma body. Moreover, the momentum of the thousands of galloping horses cleansed Xiaohua's nascent soul aura. What was special was that the thousands of galloping horses raised thousands of pillars of qi. These pillars of qi not only rushed to the sky, but also blasted toward the Black Cloud Mountain. The mountain that was originally filled with black clouds was instantly cleared. The pillars of qi hit the mountain peak, causing the mountain rocks to burst, trees to collapse, and the only river to be cut off. Chapter 35:13. Good, good, good. Xiaohua's eyes flashed fiercely, and the staff in his hand became thicker and bigger. I will let you know who is the real hero of this world. I will kill all your men. Let's see what else you can rely on to fight me. As he spoke, he waved the wishful steel staff and the pillar of great spirit that was heading toward Xiaohua was immediately smashed into pieces. Although Xiaohua's figure was huge, he was also very flexible. He did not resist the power of the Great Spirit Pillar. Instead, he borrowed the power of the Great Spirit Pillar. His figure flashed and he kicked the warhorse that was rushing towards him. Pang! There was a loud sound and the warhorse instantly turned into a red mist and dissipated in mid-air. Humph! Seeing Xiaohua so brave, Xianxia snorted. You are just a child of the Dao sect. How can you be the enemy of my country? When you are exhausted, won't your bones become soft and your tendons become numb? How can you be my opponent? Boom boom. Pillars of Aoran Qi were either half a foot in size or tens of feet in size. They all fell from the clouds in the sky, carrying an unconcealable heroic momentum. They wanted to kill Xiaohua, but Xiaohua held the wishful steel staff in his hand and moved through the pillars of Aoran Qi with ease. The pillars of Aoran Qi turned the entire black cloud ridge red, but Xiaohua was still unharmed. The blood-red warhorse was indeed as strong as an iron horse, but in front of Xiaohua, who was like a god, it was really fragile. Not only did the iron horse collapse under the punches and kicks, but when Xiaohua's wishful staff touched it, the iron horse also turned invisible. It seemed that Xiaohua was the nemesis of these iron horses. Breaking into the array was like a wolf in a flock of sheep. Invincible. Ha ha! Beigo Zhenming, who was high up in the clouds, laughed. He pointed at the tens of thousands of horses and said to Do Shanjun, Shanjun, as you can see, the militarists have always relied on the power of the army. When they saw that a little cultivator from Dao sect had good martial arts, they had no way to deal with him. It is really a disgrace to the face of the Confucian cultivators. Do Shanjun knew that the dean of his academy and the imperial preceptor were not on good terms, so he just smiled and did not say much. Suddenly, Do Shanjun's expression changed slightly. he said in a low voice. Lord Chief, the Imperial Tutor seems to be using the golden dagger axe. Moreover, it seems like the immortal slaying crossbow and the god-slaying bow are hidden in this golden dagger axe. How insidious! There's falsehood in reality, and falsehood in falsehood. This is called trickery, and it's the way of the military. Beigo Zhenming sneered. Didn't he rely on this to become the state preceptor? Sure enough, as soon as Beigo Zhenming's words fell, thousands of golden spears emerged from the clouds in all directions, like a swarm of locusts flying toward Xiaohua. So noisy! Xiaohua shouted. Don't you have any real methods? Just these little tricks to scratch this Zhao's itch. What does that count as? As he spoke, Xiaohua didn't seem to care about these golden spears. He strode forward like a wolf in a flock of sheep and continued to chase after Lang Qingge. It can't be? Dou Shanjun was dumbfounded. He raised his hand and said, This Xiaohua actually didn't block the golden dagger axe arrow array? Beigo Zhenming also frowned and said in a low voice, Daoist cultivators have a protective golden light. This Xiaohua's cultivation is at the 4th level of origin energy. I'm afraid he can block the golden dagger axe arrow array? But the immortal slaying crossbow and the god-slaying bow are precisely used to strangle the Daoist golden dagger axe arrow array. Dou Shanjun was puzzled. Beigo Zhenming looked up and down at Dou Shanjun and said with a smile, Shanjun, you know these secrets but Xiaohua doesn't. Dou Shanjun shook his head slightly. The interest in his eyes was even stronger. He felt that Xiaohua was definitely not as simple as the chief said. Sure enough. Pa. Like rain hitting banana leaves, hundreds of golden dagger axes densely hit Xiaohua's golden body. The other thousands of golden dagger axes brushed past Xiaohua's golden body and pierced into the black cloud ridge. Rumble. Bursts of intense sounds came from the mountain ridge. The mountain ridge that was trampled beyond recognition by the Iron Horse array was now ravaged again. The mountain peak collapsed, the mountain rocks were shattered, and smoke and dust flew in all directions. One could see the power of these golden dagger axes. However, these golden dagger axes that pierced Xiaohua's golden body were barely satisfactory. These golden dagger axes were really like raindrops. They only made Xiaohua's golden body tremble slightly, and then slid down from the golden body. They were basically unable to pose any threat to Xiaohua's golden body. Pa. Under Xiaohua's disregard, another wave of golden dagger axes fell down. This time, Xiaohua slightly raised his eyebrows as if he was aware of the abnormality. However, he still ignored it and allowed the golden dagger axes mixed with the execution crossbow and the god-slaying bow to land on his body. Needless to say, the golden dagger axes were still useless. However, the execution crossbow and the god-slaying bow were different. When the crossbow pierced Xiaohua's golden body, thousands of inscriptions swarmed out and flashed with an intense light. They quickly tore apart the golden light of the golden body. A whirlwind that was sharper than a sharp awl emerged from the void and pierced Xiaohua's golden body. Especially, the inscriptions on the god-slaying bow covered the golden body and annihilated the golden light. The incomparably sharp crossbow pierced deeply into Xiaohua's body. Unfortunately, no matter how sharp these execution crossbows and god-slaying bows were, they were still mortal weapons. How could they pierce Xiaohua's demon body that he spent countless efforts to refine? Hundreds of crossbows fell from Xiaohua's golden body one after another, like the helpless thoughts of the soldiers of the Bronze Pillar country. Lang Qingge watched from afar with an extremely ugly expression. He really didn't expect Xiaohua to be so vigorous. Moreover, he was also a rare body cultivator in the Dao sect. Wasn't this kind of person with a copper head and iron arms the nemesis of his golden spears and iron horses? The defensive formation that he painstakingly laid down now seemed to have become the reason for Xiaohua's fame. Humph. This old man wants to see how you will break through the siege of the golden spears and iron horses. However, Lang Qingge was also anxious. Inside the 5 brocade cloud diagram, the righteous qi was extremely abundant. Whether it was the golden dagger axes or the god-slaying bow, they were almost endless. Even if the execution crossbows and god-slaying bows were gone, just these alone could exhaust Xiaohua's strength. Who knew that in the time it took to brew a cup of tea? Xiaohua raised his head and laughed loudly. Ha, old man Lang, so you only have so many tricks up your sleeve. Since you don't have anything new, then I will let you see this Zhao's tricks. As he spoke, Xiaohua opened his mouth and the seal of the overturning sea flew out. Wang wang. The entire 5 brocade cloud diagram didn't have any heaven and earth spiritual qi, but with a wave of Xiaohua's hand, the seal of the overturning sea emitted an intense rumbling sound. In an instant, it expanded to more than 10 zhong. This Xiaohua is too powerful. In the distance, Jiang Yuming's heart was also shocked. He whispered, "Until now, Lang Qingge has no more tricks up his sleeves." Only then did he take out the Dao Sec's magical weapon. What he used to defeat Lang Qingge was only the Dao Sec's insignificant Dao. Boom! Just as Jiang Yuming expected, when Xiaohua's seal of the overturning sea appeared, the coiling dragon roared and rushed into the sky. Xiaohua pointed his hand again, and the seal instantly expanded to several mu in size. As the coiling dragon swooped down, it immediately smashed the 10,000 horses into powder. "Old man Lang, your golden spear is only as a..." Xiaohua sneered. "If you don't make a move, I will beat your disciples and granddisciples into minced meat. Looks like you really do have some tricks up your sleeve. Come, 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 this old man will fight you for 800 rounds. After being bullied by Xiaohua to this extent, Lang Qingge could no longer retreat. He waved the Damascus steel spear in his hand and a series of sonic booms rang out, bringing with it numerous pillars of boundless qi that pierced towards Xiaohua. Why would Xiaohua be afraid of him? He waved the wishful steel staff and said excitedly, "Why would I need 800 rounds? If you can last 500 rounds in front of this Xiao will throw away his staff and fight to the death with you." When Lang Qingge heard this, his nose almost went crooked from anger. What kind of bet was throwing away his staff and fighting to the death? Even if you don't have your staff, don't you still have your magical weapon? But before Lang Qingge could say anything, the suffocating wind from the staff was already coming at his head. He couldn't afford to hesitate. Xiaohua really overestimated Lang Qingge. Although Lang Qingge was a great general of the military school and could be considered a peak cultivator of the 4th level of origin energy, how could his strength be compared to Xiaohua's? Moreover, the moves and boundless qi that Lang Qingge relied on were nothing in front of Xiaohua. Although Xiaohua had concealed his cultivation base to the nascent soul stage in order to not attract the special attention of the scholarly cultivators, after 100 rounds, Lang Qingge no longer dared to use his Damascus steel spear against Xiaohua's wishful steel staff. After another 10 or so exchanges, Lang Qingge was already stretched thin. Although Xiaohua did not use any kind of confinement technique, Lang Qingge felt that his hands and feet were bound, and it was difficult for him to display even 50% of his martial skills. Lang Qingge was a little anxious in his heart. Thinking back to what he said before, Xiaohua really did rely on his own strength to resist the power of the bronze pillar state. If he continued to fight with him, he might really fall here. Thinking of this, Lang Qingge didn't hesitate to clap his hands. Boom! Golden light flashed above Lang Qingge's head, and the golden dagger axe that he had previously stored in his body rushed out again. A golden light suddenly appeared, and thousands of boundless qi followed the golden light and blasted towards Xiaohua. Moreover, where the golden dagger axe was, there was a piercing sharpness that seemed to be able to pierce through the sky and directly into Xiaohua's body. Ha ha ha! Xiaohua was overjoyed. Seeing the blood-red color around Lang Qingge's body gradually disappear, and the bronze light around him flourished, how could he not know that Lang Qingge was about to use some kind of sword technique? Xiaohua laughed and clapped his hands. He simply gave up on the power of the flying sword and stretched out his nascent soul hand. He didn't digest it into a hand that was several mu in size, but only a few 100 feet in size. It firmly trapped the golden dagger axe. No matter how red Lang Qingge's face was, he couldn't move the golden dagger axe forward even half an inch. Just as Lang Qingge was about to be defeated by Xiaohua, a layer of blue cloud brocade fell from the sky like a rainbow, falling right in front of Xiaohua's nascent soul hand. From the brocade, thousands of wind, fire, and mountains rushed out to block Xiaohua's path. Chapter 35:14. Puff. The Yuanying's hand fell, and thousands of wind and fire mountains were crushed, turning into countless inscriptions dancing in the air. At the same time, the cloud brocade was also pulled down, turning into a mighty qi. Lang Qingge took advantage of this gap and hurriedly put away the golden dagger axe, turned around, and disappeared into the clouds. Hee hee, it turns out to be a battle of attrition. Xiao Hua put away the Yuanying's hand and coldly looked at the cyan cloud brocade rapidly emerging from the sky. Like the previous crimson cloud, it covered the entire sky. He sneered. This Xiao thought that the Confucian cultivators were trustworthy people. Only Lang Qingge and this Xiao would fight, and no one else would intervene. Since the Confucian cultivators are so shameless, forget it, tell me your name. This one is Jiang Yuming. Jiang Yuming did not have a golden body of 20 feet. He appeared in the sky and faintly replied. The Jiang family of the Bronze Pillar country? This is really interesting. Xiao Hua smiled as if he had seen his prey. He stretched out his finger and waved it a few times in the air. Have you washed your neck clean? This Xiao didn't look for you, and you actually dare to come and seek death? Xiao Hua's behavior was tantamount to naked provocation and insult, but Jiang Yuming was not angry. He still faintly replied, the grudge between my Jiang family and you is a private grudge. The grudge between my Bronze Pillar country and your Jiang country is a national grudge. My Jiang family is now under the orders of the emperor to destroy the remnants of the Dao sect. It has nothing to do with my Jiang family's grudge. Using official power for personal gain is actually said by you in such a dignified manner. This Xiao is really speechless. Xiao Hua sneered and pointed with a wishful staff in his hand. I don't care what your reason is. Since you are here, leave your life. We haven't fought yet, who knows who will leave their life. Jiang Yuming raised his eyebrows, opened his mouth, and spat out a mouthful of cyan qi. In the air, the cyan cloud brocade that had originally covered the entire sky suddenly lit up, and countless inscriptions emerged from the clouds. These inscriptions were either jumping, flying, or cruising. As these inscriptions danced, a deep voice emerged from the void. These voices were either rhythmic or disorderly, but between each word and sentence, all the inscriptions gradually had a rhythm. Isn't that the meaning of the 100-seed book array? Xiao Hua looked doubtfully at the familiar array formation in front of him. He was very puzzled. He had used the green seal script to break the 100-child book array in the Copper Pillar Academy. How could this Jiang Yuming not know? Why did he have to use the Confucian cultivator's book array again and again? But in the sky, millions of inscriptions first condensed into sentences, and then gathered into articles. Pieces of articles floated in front of Xiao Hua's eyes, and sounds of recitation came from the void. The entire 5-brocade cloud atlas was solemn, as if he had entered a school. Looking at the place where Jiang Yuming was previously, Jiang Yuming's figure had already disappeared. Similarly, there were many inscriptions violently churning. However, what these inscriptions condensed was not an article, but a human figure about the same size as Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua swept a glance over and understood that this was the so-called child, transformed from Jiang Yuming's true qi. The Z that could kill with words and poems. Boom! When the thousands of articles finally gathered together and condensed into books, for huge books flashing with blue light appeared in the sky. Wind! With a loud shout, the already formed character opened its mouth, and the first of the 4 books slowly opened. A gust of wind mixed with a clamorous sound rushed out from the book and rushed towards Xiao Hua. Ha ha! Isn't this the method of my Taoist? You actually dare to show off in front of this Xiao. Xiao Hua saw the hurricane coming and laughed loudly. He rubbed his hands and rays of light flashed. In front of Xiao Hua, 100 feet tall yellow earth shield blocked the hurricane. Woo! Woo! Bursts of wind like the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves collided with the earth shield. The earth shield flashed with a faint brilliance, blocking the hurricane without any difficulty. However, Xiao Hua, who was behind the earth shield, felt a little strange because the earth shield did not block all of the hurricane. Some of the wind still passed through the earth shield and blew on Xiao Hua's body. At first, Xiao Hua did not care, but as the impact of the hurricane became stronger, the earth shield's brilliance flashed rapidly, and the wind blowing on Xiao Hua's body also became stronger. In particular, the woo-woo wind was mixed with a strange sound. At this time, Xiao Hua already understood that it was actually some common words. These words were clearly some inscriptions that Xiao Hua did not understand, but Xiao Hua's heart became more and more agitated with this sound. As his agitation became more and more intense, a kind of bone-softening and numbing feeling came from the golden body. Xiao Hua was shocked. He understood in his heart that his transcendence golden body was not simple. It was different from the transcendence golden body of the Buddhist sect. It was based on his physical body and was displayed using the heavenly law's embodiment of heaven and earth technique. Xiao Hua was confident that this golden body could not be damaged by an ordinary flying sword. How could it be damaged by a simple hurricane? Boom! Just as Xiao Hua was shocked, the earth shield that was as hard as iron and stone was destroyed by the hurricane. The wind whistled and drowned Xiao Hua's golden body in an overwhelming manner. In an instant, thousands of noises, groans, curses, whispers, and all kinds of sounds fell into Xiao Hua's ears. They entered both his ears and his heart. A kind of unconcealable agitation arose in Xiao Hua's heart. This agitation made Xiao Hua scratch his ears and his cheeks, not knowing what to do. The hurricane that blew away the earth shield fell on Xiao Hua's golden body. Wisps of wind turned into inscriptions that were so fine that they could not be heard. Along with the fluctuation of Xiao Hua's mood, they rushed into the golden body with this agitation. Boom! In just a moment, Xiao Hua's golden body showed signs of collapsing. The surface began to scatter. Rumble! Xiao Hua was very anxious. A green light suddenly appeared between his eyebrows. The lightning flash and thunder roll technique was used. Layer after layer of lightning covered Xiao Hua's golden body. The inscriptions that came in contact with the green seal text immediately disappeared into nothingness. The thousands of noises were also covered by the lightning at this time. As soon as the noises and the hurricane disappeared, Xiao Hua's golden body immediately stabilized. His heart also became clear. Granny, what kind of hurricane is this? What is this sound? Why is it so strange? Xiao Hua took advantage of this gap to think quickly. Why am I so agitated? Humph. While Xiao Hua was thinking, the coverage of the lightning flash and thunder roll technique increased. Not only did it cover the 4 books, but it also covered the Z book statue. These books and book statues all melted under the green seal text. However, these books were different from the ones in the Copper Pillar Academy. The green inscriptions between the clouds seemed to be endless. The amount of green seal text that melted was immediately replenished by the clouds. The speed was several times faster than the green seal text. Seeing this, Xiao Hua finally understood Jiang Yuming's plan. He was now trapped in the formation. No matter how many green seal text characters there were, they couldn't compare to this Confucian cultivator's defensive formation. Their Z naturally wasn't afraid of being destroyed. It seems that if I don't understand why this hurricane is making me agitated, I'm afraid it won't be easy to get out of this situation. Xiao Hua frowned slightly. In his mind, he recalled the reason why he was agitated just now. Wasn't it because of those noises? Thinking of this, Xiao Hua closed his ears. However, even if he couldn't hear those noises, they still drilled into Xiao Hua's heart like little insects. It was like a shrew cursing in the street. Even if you didn't want to hear it, those unpleasant words still fell into your ears and even attracted your attention. Gossips? Rumors and groundless gossip? Suddenly, Xiao Hua seemed to understand something. He thought to himself, these Confucian cultivators use words to establish their divine abilities. How can their wind be the same as the Taoist sect's wind? This wind is made up of words and carries a kind of awe-inspiring aura. The power is only on the surface. The words are still in the bones. These words move people's hearts. Xianxia once said that the 5 qis unification is to cultivate the 5 viscera and 6 bowels. Isn't this Confucian cultivator's secret offensive technique the 5 qis? The Confucian cultivator's wind is more focused on attacking the heart. As long as the Taoist sect's cultivator's Tao heart isn't pure and hasn't broken free from the bonds of the mortal world, they'll definitely fall into their trap. Confucian cultivators, oh Confucian cultivators, they're really scheming. Ha ha. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua laughed and sang, My heart is clear, my will is righteous, I wish my heart to face heaven and earth, why should I be afraid of others' rumors? My body is stone, my body is gold, I wish my body to stand in heaven and earth, I'm not afraid of others' rumors. My heart can accommodate heaven and earth, all things in heaven and earth are in my thoughts. My body can accept glory, my liver and gallbladder can be bright. Along with Xiao Hua's laughter, the sound of lightning and thunder stopped. The Buddha's relics in Xiao Hua's Naiwan palace formed the Akala seal and sat upright. In his middle dantian, the 3-colored heavenly heart protected his 5 viscera and 6 bowels and slowly rotated. The nascent soul in his lower dantian also calmly cultivated. It was like he was strong, he was strong, he was strong, he was strong. It was also strange. Xiao Hua's thoughts were clear and he wasn't afraid of 100 disasters. Although the wind was fierce and the rumors still entered his ears, Xiao Hua didn't listen to them. He was like an indomitable man. He was independent and couldn't be shaken by the so-called rumors. His heart was calm and his body was firm. The hundreds of millions of inscriptions attacked Xiao Hua's golden body. The golden body's light alternated between bright and dark without any signs of dimming. Instead, the golden light became more and more tenacious, as if Xiao Hua was tempering his body. How is this possible? High up in the sky, the heads of the Jiang family's children appeared with true energy to support the child in midair. When they saw Xiao Hua actually break the wind formation in such a short time, they were all stupefied. The most powerful element of the Jiang families, wind, forest, fire, and mountain, was the wind. Who knew how many cultivators couldn't see through this rumors and slanders, and their mental state was destroyed by the waves. Words could kill people, but those that could kill themselves were just slanders. If one's mental state wasn't really bright and wasn't hurt by the world's rumors, who could escape this heart-destroying wind? Xiao Hua was actually able to stand in the face of the wind. It was really too inconceivable. Chapter 35:15. This Xiao Hua really has some tricks up his sleeve. Jiang Yuming's expression was still indifferent as he said. However, he was able to set up a bloodsteel in Seven Suns Temple and bring the old Taoist's corpse into the academy alone. He is a brave person, so it's normal for him to be able to dodge the wind array. Let's activate the forest array. Let him see how powerful we are. Following Jiang Yuming's words, the huge Z in the sky once again stretched out its hand and opened the second book. Swish, swish, swish. From the book, droplets of emerald green light flew out like raindrops, instantly covering the entire sky. Every green dot was a slowly rotating inscription. Humph. Xiao Hua sneered. What kind of dirty trick is this? Obviously, since the Confucian cultivator could even use rumors, in Xiao Hua's eyes, there was no trick that he couldn't use. After Xiao Hua's cold snort, the hurricane swept the green dots towards Xiao Hua's golden body. How could Xiao Hua let these green dots get close to him? He rubbed his hands together, but the space within a few feet around him gave off a golden light, as if a golden glass was protecting Xiao Hua. Ho ho! Xiao Hua's golden light was covered by these green dots in the wind. Then, the green dots began to expand, and countless tiny inscriptions gushed out from each green dot. At the same time, there was a mighty aura falling from the green clouds, and these inscriptions could be seen expanding with the naked eye. Gotcha! Xiao Hua's golden light was not without cracks, and the green dots that fell from the cracks now turned into inscriptions, destroying the restriction in an instant. Damn it! This is also possible? Xiao Hua cursed in his heart, and he was just about to urge his magic power once more. However, before he could move, he saw strings of inscriptions grow like clumps of tree branches within the entire grand formation. The roots and branches intertwined with each other, and they covered the heavens and the earth with the intention of imprisoning Xiao Hua. Oh, this Xiao understands. Seeing this, the corner of Xiao Hua's mouth curled up, and with a wave of his hand, dozens of jade talismans flew out. Rumble! Bursts of fireballs exploded nearby. These huge fireballs not only blew up the newly born branches, but also followed the direction of the inscriptions and swallowed the other inscriptions. Damn it! Jiang Yuming, who had always been calm, suddenly jumped up and said anxiously, This is the fire talisman that blew up Qin Qingyu's arm. So that fire talisman was refined by Xiao Hua. Before Jiang Yuming could recover from his shock, he saw Xiao Hua open his mouth, and a cauldron fell into the air. Xiao Hua cast seals, and the cauldron expanded to hundreds of feet in size. Woo! Thousands of fire crows flew out of the cauldron. These fire crows whistled and rushed to the forest-shaped prison in the sky. Rumble! Rumble! All the inscriptions around the fire crows were burned. The forest array that was about to seal the entire space collapsed in an instant. The Dao Sect's treasure is indeed extraordinary. Jiang Yuming sat down absent-mindedly. He looked at his senior brothers and granduncles, who also looked unfriendly. His heart was filled with complicated feelings. That's right, Even though the Tao sect's treasures were extraordinarily powerful, what was behind this extraordinariness? Xiao Hua fought against all his disciples by himself. His spiritual power was unfathomable. Suddenly, Jiang Yuming understood something. The king of the Bronze Pillar country set up such a large defensive array in the Black Cloud Ridge with the intention of killing the chicken to scare the monkey. Wasn't Xiao Hua the same at this time? With the ability Xiao Hua showed at this time, he was afraid that before the array was activated, or even at the beginning, he could destroy the array. Why wait until now? Xiao Hua revealed his Dharma body and stood there calmly, countering each move as it came. It was as if the bamboo in his heart had already grown long ago. Thinking of this, Jiang Yuming's heart immediately turned cold, but at this moment, an old Confucian next to him said angrily, "Quick, activate the fire array. Let's take advantage of this guy's complacency, and let him taste the power of our Confucian cultivator's fire. It's hard to stop halfway. Let's wait until after this battle." Jiang Yuming felt bitter in his heart, but since it had already come to this, how could he stop? Thus, Jiang Yuming gathered his thoughts and focused on fighting the enemy. Sure enough, just as Xiao Hua activated the cauldron and used the Samadhi true fire to destroy all the forest arrays, he was about to show off his power again and activate the flames to burn the 4 scrolls. Boom! The huge Z raised his hand and the 3rd scroll opened. Flames poured out from the scroll like a rain of fire falling from the sky. Huh! Xiao Hua was somewhat puzzled. This Xiao is activating the flames. Why are they still using fire to attack? However, the fire of the 5 brocade cloud painting was different from Xiao Hua's fire. The color of the fire was light green, and countless inscriptions flowed within the flames. Waves of noble qi rushed into the flames. This green flame did not mix with Xiao Hua's Samadhi true fire. When the two touched, they even passed through. Damn it, what kind of fire is this? Xiao Hua could be considered a cultivator who had seen the origin of fire. Whether it was the Samadhi true fire or the 2-colored spiritual fire, they were all flames that were hard to find in the world. However, he still could not understand what kind of fire this green flame was. Because the flames had already reached his body, the golden light protecting his body could not stop them. Although the sky was filled with a rain of fire, Xiao Hua did not feel the heat of the flames at all. Xiao Hua hurriedly rubbed his hands, and several rays of light appeared. Layers of imprisonment appeared in the space near the golden body. However, the flame seemed to be formless, and simply ignored the imprisonment, and fell down with a whoosh. Moreover, what made Xiao Hua shocked was that the closer the flame got to him, the faster it flew towards him. Especially when the flame passed through the imprisonment, it almost instantly rushed into his golden body. What made Xiao Hua lose his head out of fear was that after the first wisp of flames entered his golden body, the second wisp, the third wisp, and even more wisps of flames were like 100 birds returning to their nest. In an instant, they crossed the space barrier and rushed into Xiao Hua's golden body. Good. An old scholar behind Jiang Yuming clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Great success, this child is crippled." Jiang Yuming's heart clearly relaxed. He naturally knew how powerful the heart fire of the Wind Forest Fire Mountain was. This fire looked like fire, but in reality, it was not fire. It was the fire in the cultivator's heart. All magic power and divine abilities were useless against it. If one could not stop the heart fire before it entered the heart, as long as the heart fire entered the body, it would ignite the fire in the cultivator's heart. It would burn from the inside out. Even a 9th-grade essence power would not be able to escape. Unfortunately, just as Jiang Yuming's heart relaxed, he saw the flames filling the sky instantly turn into fireflies and rush into Xiao Hua's golden body. Xiao Hua was flustered, as if he wanted to use some divine ability to stop it, but unfortunately, not even a wisp of flame could stop it. However, all the flames that entered Xiao Hua's body did not give birth to heart fire. The internal burning fire that Jiang Yuming and the others were hoping for did not appear. Even Xiao Hua himself lowered his head and looked at his golden body in confusion. This, what's going on now? Jiang Yuming and the others were dumbfounded. Ha ha! After a moment, Xiao Hua seemed to have realized something. He looked up to the sky and laughed. Jiang Yuming, your Jiang family has gone against the tide and harmed the common people. Now, even the heavens are not helping you. Just wait and wash your necks. Let me chop off your heads. How is this possible? An old scholar was trembling all over. He did not dare to believe his eyes. Now that things have come to this, what else can we say? Jiang Yuming had already regained his composure. He said in a low voice, "Let's see the last mountain array." All right, that old scholar also gritted his teeth. I don't believe that this child can resist the 100 seedlings by himself. As he spoke, the green sea of clouds rolled again. That child raised his hand, and the last scroll opened. The smile on Xiaohua's face did not fade. He did not know the origin of the heart fire, but when his mind fell on his middle dantian, he saw that the crimson heart of the heavens was unusually dazzling. Many flames that rushed into his golden body disappeared after entering it. He already understood that this fire was the fire of the heart and lungs. It was one of the 5 elements. Rather than saying that the flames that filled the sky fell into his golden body because of the power of the array, it was more accurate to say that they were attracted by the crimson heart of the heavens. If he had not obtained the heart of the heavens, he was afraid that there would be some trouble. Let's see what the 4th scroll is. Xiaohua was full of confidence. He raised his head and looked at the sky. When the last scroll opened, the entire sky was shaking. Whether it was the wind or the forest, they all disappeared and turned into specks of fireflies. Endless chi of righteousness crisscrossed the entire space. Inside the scroll, an inscription the size of a thumb appeared. All the surrounding inscriptions let out a deafening chanting sound and condensed toward this inscription. The 4 scrolls also flashed with a green brilliance and rapidly enlarged. In the roar of the entire space, everything condensed into a huge 4-sided mountain. The 4 scrolls flew to the 4 sides of the huge mountain and turned into 4 large words. It was Mountain of Literature and Sea of Words. Fall! Z angrily roared from the horizon. Both of his hands produced a cyan-colored cloud brocade and slammed it on the huge mountain. The huge mountain issued a rumbling sound as it fell down towards Xiaohua's head. Seeing the endless pressure coming from the giant mountain, the suffocating atmosphere was incomparably heavy. Xiaohua was not surprised, but happy. Ha ha ha. He laughed a few times. He did not take out the wishful staff. Instead, he formed a seal with both hands. The spiritual power of the whole body surged, and the power of the secret sex Buddhist seal rushed out with the power of the mountain. Boom! Xiaohua waved his hands, and a golden light overflowed. It was not clear whether it was the golden light of the Taoist sect or the Buddhist sect. Everyone only felt that their eyes were bright, and then there was a loud noise that shook the entire space. Xiaohua's golden light was like a demon god that could split heaven and earth. With his hands, the seemingly indestructible mountain of literature and sea of words collapsed. Whether it was the scrolls or the words, they all turned into inscriptions. Moreover, under the huge shock, these inscriptions turned into righteous chi. Puff puff puff. In the sky, Jiang Yuming and the others vomited blood. The child statue could no longer support itself and collapsed. The true chi in everyone's chest was swallowed back. Whether it was Jiang Yuming or the others, they had never recovered from the shock. They knew that Xiaohua was a body cultivator, but they never thought that a cultivator could cultivate his strength to such a level. The wind, forest, fire, and fire scattered. The Jiang family of the Bronze Pillar country was completely defeated. Chapter 35:16. Ding Dong. The moment the sea of words collapsed, 2 clear zither sounds came from the void. 2 faint blue flowers bloomed in the sky. These flowers seemed to be too weak to withstand a gust of wind. They looked especially pitiful against the blue cloud brocade. It was as if a gust of wind was blowing the petals into the air. Whoosh! It was also as if the autumn rain was sprinkling down with flying petals, covering the entire sky. Ding dong ding dong. It was as if an orphan girl was sighing in disappointment. A few more zither sounds came and a woman wearing a palace dress slowly appeared at the end of the blue cloud brocade. Who are you? Xiaohua was an emotional person, so these few zither sounds made him a bit sad. He unconsciously stopped and asked. The woman stood on the cloud brocade. Her whole body was covered by the cloud brocade. One could only vaguely see her palace dress and figure, but not her appearance. The woman landed not far from Xiaohua and bowed. This concubine is by Hou Yuqin. I am in charge of the water brocade diagram of the 5 brocade cloud diagram. Fellow Immortal Xiao is very powerful and easily passed through 2 formations. This concubine had no choice but to come out and greet you. 5 Brocade Cloud Diagram? Xiaohua frowned and slightly nodded. I am very happy that fellow Immortal Xiao can tell me the name of this formation. However, why don't you reveal your appearance? Wouldn't this fall into minor ascension again? Hee. Fellow Immortal Xiao is a gentleman. This concubine respects you very much. Bai Hou Yuqin laughed and said, this concubine originally didn't want to be fellow Immortal Xiao's enemy. However, this concubine is a citizen of the Bronze Pillar country. When the country is in danger, this concubine has no choice but to face it head-on and use this water brocade diagram to fight fellow Immortal Xiao. Of course, fellow Immortal Xiao is very powerful and this concubine knows that she is no match for him. Thus, this concubine will play a song here. As long as fellow Immortal Xiao can hear the end of the song, this concubine will leave. This concubine has done her duty and won't dare to make things difficult for fellow Immortal Xiao. However, once this concubine's appearance is seen by fellow Immortal Xiao, this concubine's rain bell will lose some of its power. That's why I didn't dare to reveal myself. Please forgive me, fellow Immortal. Bai Hou's zither retreated in order to advance. He clearly explained his difficulties and also explained that he used his zither to subdue the enemy. Xiaohua slightly nodded and smiled. Fellow Immortal Bai Hou is right. You and I are enemies today, so there's no need to be merciful. Just use whatever means you have. This Xiao will naturally listen attentively and appreciate the wonders of fellow Immortal zither music. Fellow Immortal, please. Bai Hou Yuqin slightly bowed and sat down. She waved her hand and a green brocade appeared out of thin air like a zither table. Bai Hou Yuqin placed the zither on the table and whispered, I'll begin. Xiaohua's eyes narrowed as light flowed around his body. The golden light slowly shrunk and returned to its normal size. Then, he placed his arms behind his back and looked at Bai Hou Yuqin indifferently. Ding dong. 2 simple sounds from the zither caused the entire formation to become silent. Xiaohua's heart jumped twice as if he was enchanted by the zither music. Xiaohua frowned. At this moment, the sound of a zither slowly flowed out from the brocade clouds in the sky. Along with the sound of the zither, inscriptions appeared on the brocade clouds under the zither. These inscriptions danced and flowed along with the sound of the zither and quickly spread across the entire sky. In the originally dark green sky, the inscriptions intersected with each other rhythmically. Wisps of awe-inspiring qi gushed out. Gradually, these inscriptions began to transform. The night sky appeared, the stars dotted the sky, and the crescent moon hung in the sky. Not only that, willows began to appear on the left side of Xiaohua. On the side of the willows, there was a river flowing out. On the river, there was a riverboat. On the riverboat, there was a boatman standing at the bow of the boat, seemingly looking at the mountain range. The swaying willow branches were like the graceful figure of a beauty, but also like the lonely mood of a beauty. Between the willow leaves, there was a pavilion with a small bridge. Inside the pavilion, a beauty and a young master seemed to be standing facing each other, but also seemed to be hugging each other and crying. At this moment, a sad but beautiful voice came from the zither music. The cicadas are mournful, facing the pavilion at night, the rain has just stopped. The tent at the gate is empty, reluctant to leave, the orchid boat is activated. Holding hands, looking at tearful eyes, speechless. Thoughts go to 1,000 miles of smoke. The evening mist is heavy, Chu Tianqua. Hiss. Xiaohua had always been on guard ever since Bai Hou started playing the zither. However, despite the myriad of illusions, the sound of the zither didn't cause any abnormalities. Even his heart, which he was paying attention to, didn't suffer any attacks. However, when this sad but beautiful voice came out, the illusions before his eyes began to change. The willow trees, the pavilion, and the night scene all disappeared. Instead, they were replaced by a vast ocean. At this moment, there was a beautiful woman on the beach looking at him. That woman's eyes were filled with reluctance, love, and determination. Shue shue. Xiaohua knew that this was an illusion, but he couldn't help but call out in his heart. This was the sorrow of cultivators. As long as it was an ordinary person, they might see another person in their dreams. However, cultivators rarely slept. Even if it was a short rest, How could there still be dreams? Although Xiao Hua missed Shui in his heart and could see the netherworld lotus at any time in the dark side of the space, if he wanted to see Shui's appearance, he could only see it in his own memories. And this memory, even if Xiao Hua's divine ability was strong, he couldn't force it to stay. As time passed, it gradually dimmed. Now that he suddenly saw Shui alive, how could Xiao Hua not be moved? How could he bear to break this illusion? Husband. Shui's voice was mournful. This concubine really wants to be husband's wife. Xiao Hua's heart ached. An indescribable guilt spread out. He reached out his hand to grab Shui's hand. The scene before his eyes changed again. It was Shui holding the pink jade slip. Her eyes flashed with an indescribable bitterness. She said in a low voice, "Xiao Hua, this is what this concubine wants to tell you. However, this is a secret. In the future, you'll know when you see it." Xiao Hua's heart shrank even more. At that time he was so ignorant. He didn't know that what Shui gave him was her heart. What she gave him was her most precious life. Guilt involuntarily arose. Thinking about what he owed Shui, Xiao Hua was almost willing to give up everything he had in exchange for Shui's life. The illusions changed again. The palace of the Misty Mountain appeared in front of him. The pitiful Shui was lying in his arms. Her sweet sleeping face was full of tears. Those tears soaked his clothes. Xiao Hua's eyes couldn't help but shed tears. Yes, the careless him actually thought that it was the saliva of the sleeping Shui. However, he never thought that. The Shui in the dream was still heartbroken. His heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife. This was the only feeling Xiao Hua had. The sound of Bai Ho's zither was still echoing in his ears. Xiao Hua clearly knew that this was an illusion. However, he couldn't bear to shatter this illusion. He would rather be intoxicated in this illusion. He would rather use his own safety in exchange for a chance to meet Shui. This was nothing more than drinking poison to quench one's thirst. Inside the great array, Xiao Hua's body was surrounded by a green brocade. The green true energy in the brocade was like a needle piercing into Xiao Hua's body. Xiao Hua's body was originally flickering with a golden light, but it only flashed for a moment. It was as if Xiao Hua had stopped it. In the entire space, besides the sound of the zither, there was also sorrow. This sorrow was even heavier than the green brocade. Time slowly passed. The brocade that previously only surrounded Xiao Hua's body gradually filled the entire great array. Although the sound of the zither was still clear, it was also somewhat slow. The singing voice was also tactful and long. Sentimental since ancient times, the sorrow of parting is even greater. How can the autumn festival be neglected? Tonight, where will I wake up from my drunken stupor? The willow bank with the morning breeze and waning moon. This time, after many years, should be a good time in name only. Even if there are 1,000 kinds of amorous feelings, who will tell? Gradually, the song dissipated and the clouds parted. Although her appearance could be considered beautiful, she was still unable to resist the corrosion of time. The woman's face was already covered in frost. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted. There wasn't a trace of happiness in her victory. Instead, there was a trace of unhappiness from losing her heart. "Congratulations, Fairy Bai Ho." A clear voice came from the distant horizon. It was the state preceptor of the Bronze Pillar country, Xianxia, who was previously injured by Xiao Hua. Bai Ho shook her head slightly and said, "Young Master Lung, according to the agreement, this is the last time I will serve the country. In the future, if there is another battle like this, don't look for me." Hee. Fairy is too sentimental. Xianxia's figure had already recovered. He looked like a handsome old man. He didn't come forward and just laughed from afar. This child is a remnant of the Dao sect. You saw it just now. His methods are powerful. This old man and the Jiang family are not his opponents. If you don't subdue him, I'm afraid the people of the hidden immortal continent will be plunged into misery and suffering again. Today's battle is a great merit and should be rewarded by the country's monarch for getting rid of a scourge for us Confucian cultivators. Unfortunately, before he finished speaking, Bai Ho Yuqin waved her hand. Clang clang. 2 sounds of zither rang out. The woman coldly said, "Young Master Leng's heart has long lost its rhythm. Now, only killing is left. Young Master's state of mind is no longer the same as before. You can only see the blood on this child, but you can't see the tenderness in this child's heart. This kind of cultivator who is aware of the illusion, whose heart is as clear as a mirror, but who is unwilling to erase the thoughts in his heart. How can he set off endless killing? In my opinion, if we didn't force him, he might not have fought. Forget it, forget it. Xianxia didn't want to argue with Bai Hou Yuqin. Hearing this, he waved his hand and laughed. Who cares if he is gentle or not? I don't care if he can set off 1,000 feet sea of blood. We only need to capture him and send him to the front of the palace. The country's monarch will deal with him. But at this moment, a faint voice sounded again. Who can bring this Xiao to the front of the palace? Xianxia, is that you? Why don't you come in front of this Xiao? Are you afraid that this Xiao will kill you on the spot? Xianxia turned pale with fright and said anxiously, You. Chapter 35:17. You. Bai Hou Yuqin was even more surprised than Xianxia. She looked at Xiao Hua, who was completely wrapped in the green brocade, with disbelief. Following Xiao Hua's voice, hundreds of golden lights that were even more brilliant than sunlight shot out from the green brocade. Xiao Hua's imposing figure slowly appeared. A faint smile appeared on Xiao Hua's face. His eyes were filled with a kind of relaxed and free spirit. When Xiao Hua raised his eyes to look at Bai Hou Yuqin, he smiled and said, I've finally seen Fairy's appearance. This refined temperament really complements your zither music. This Xiao has learned a lot from listening to your music. Thank you very much. As he spoke, Xiao Hua slightly bowed. I don't dare. Bai Hou Yuqin stopped being surprised and hurriedly returned the bow. Xiao Hua used his gaze to look at Xianxia in the distant sky and said indifferently, However, Fairy Bai Hou said it well. When the music ends, the person ends. This Xiao should have won this battle, right? Xianxia saw Xiao Hua's sword-like gaze and waved her hand. The brocade rose and disappeared again. Bai Hou Yuqin said helplessly, Fellow Immortal Xiao has already won. This concubine's technique is only child's play in your eyes. This concubine has really made a fool of herself. Xiao Hua slightly shook his head. Fellow Immortal is wrong. Fellow Immortal's technique is miraculous. Fellow Immortal's method of loosening the reins only to grasp them better hit this Xiao's weak spot. This Xiao's performance was not as pretentious as Fellow Immortal thought. This Xiao also had no intention of luring Xianxia into a trap. When Bai Hou Yuqin heard this, her face lit up and she said with a smile, So that's how it is. This concubine is very happy. If the person in this concubine's eyes is also a scheming person, this concubine can only be disappointed in the people of this world. At this point, Bai Hou Yuqin hesitated and asked, However, this concubine is a bit puzzled. Mr. had already fallen into the illusion and was unable to extricate himself. How could you easily escape now? It's very simple. Because this world has its own cycle of reincarnation. Life is death. Death is life. Although death makes people feel sad, this death is also the beginning of a new life. If we cultivators only set our sights on death, how can we escape the cycle of reincarnation? Xiao Hua didn't hide anything and replied with a smile. Moreover, the thing of love is something that exists. Regardless of whether it's time, separation, or life and death, it can't be erased. Perhaps the person is gone, but the love will always be there. Bai Hou Yuqin was beaming with joy as she listened. She stood up and respectfully saluted Xiao Hua. This concubine has received your teachings. Many thanks for Gongzi's guidance. Ugh. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, It can't be considered guidance. It's just that this Zhao's situation is rather special, so it's easy for him to understand. Haha, comprehending is comprehending, comprehending is comprehending, comprehending is comprehending, there is no reason. Bai Hou Yuqin said with a smile, After today's battle, I would like to invite young Master Ling Yuanye to accompany me. This concubine will play the zither and wait for you. All right, it's a deal. Xiao Hua said with a straightforward smile. However, Bai Hou Yuqin smiled bitterly. Although young Lore has passed this mistress test, there are still many more difficulties to come. Moreover, this mistress still has to. Xiao Hua didn't wait for her to finish speaking. He waved his hand with a smile and said, There's no need to say anything more. Inside the formation, we're mortal enemies. It's the good fortune of 3 lifetimes for this Xiao to have such a straightforward and upright opponent like fellow Immortal. Many thanks for Gongzi's understanding. Bai Hou Yuqin slightly saluted. She stroked the zither in her hand, and a cheerful zither sound rang out. At the same time her figure disappeared, a bright yellow cloud brocade appeared from all 4 sides of the sky and rolled towards Xiao Hua's location. Xiao Hua understood that this must be the 4th transformation of the 5 brocade cloud diagram. He took a deep breath, and the primordial spirit in his middle dantian activated the 5 qi unifications technique. He slowly absorbed the noble qi from the great formation, and combined it with the true qi he absorbed from the heavenly heart to temper his lungs, heart, and spleen. At his kidneys, a sharp pain caused him to involuntarily frown. Bai Hou Yuqin's sound attack was very powerful. In fact, Xiao Hua was already injured, and under his own perseverance, he had already fallen into an illusion. However, just as Xiao Hua said, Xue Xue wasn't truly dead. Xue Xue's death in exchange for true eternal life was enough for Xiao Hua to escape from the illusion created by Bai Hou Yuqin. Although Xiao Hua managed to escape, he also paid a great price. This sound attack's damage to his kidneys was far greater than that of the profound water palace's puppet. Xiao Hua didn't have Xion's origin replenishing pill, so he could only wait until after the battle to find an opportunity to heal. Roar! A loud roar rang out. Before the bright yellow brocade could completely envelop the sky, a red-faced brawny man with flames burning all over his body, riding a strange demon beast, emerged from the depths of the brocade. His aura was monstrous. This burly man was over 10 feet tall and was wearing a bright yellow armor. This armor was similar to ordinary armor, but it was engraved with fire patterns. The flames around the burly man's body came from these fire patterns. The brawny man had round eyes and a wide mouth. His yellow eyebrows were like 2 brooms, and his yellow eyes flickered with flames. His expression couldn't be seen. The brawny man's demon beast looked somewhat similar to the light beast, but it had no horns on its head and no scales on its body. Only wisps of flames were expanding and contracting as if they were breathing. Even the ground under its feet was covered in flames. The flames were like flowing tassels. Seeing this, Xiao Hua smiled. Not to mention whether these flames were common in the Taoist sect, even if they were the invisible flames of a Confucian cultivator, why would he be afraid? Hey! The brawny man flew closer, raised his hand, and pointed at Xiao Hua. I'm West Buahong from Shallow Moon Ridge. Are you the Taoist sect's Xiao Hua? The Xiao Hua who set up the Bloodsteel in Seven Suns Monastery? I am indeed the Taoist sect's Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua sneered. I've already broken through 3 layers of the formation. Could it be that Taoist West doesn't know? Ha 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 ha, good. I'm Lung Chinga's good friend. I didn't plan to help him before. Shi Buahong laughed heartily. However, when I heard about your actions in the Copper Pillar country, I was curious. I even personally went to the Seven Suns Monastery. The words written on the Bloodsteel are still vivid in my mind. To be able to fight with a warrior like you is my long-cherished wish. Come, come, come. Let me see if you have the strength to set up the Bloodsteel. Let me see if you're worthy of me coming all the way here. Damn it! Xiao Hua couldn't help but cuss in his heart. With one look, I can tell that this guy is a heartless thing. Since he admires me, he shouldn't be helping the evildoer. Now that you want to fight with me, do you think I'll still remember your kindness? Seeing West Buahong controlling the monster, waving his bare hands, the righteous Qi stirred up thousands of fire pillars. There was also an endless sea of fire that blotted out the sky and covered the earth as it rushed towards Xiao Hua. The indescribable heat and the suffocating strength were more powerful than 10 fire-controlling cultivators. Xiao Hua sneered. If other attacks had this kind of power, Xiao Hua would have to be on guard. However, in the face of fire-controlling technique, Xiao Hua didn't feel any pressure at all. If he was afraid of fire, how many people in the world wouldn't be afraid of fire? With a thought, Xiao Hua waved his hands and displayed the fire-controlling technique. Sure enough, the surrounding flames slightly jumped, and then the flames suddenly emitted a brilliant brilliance. They danced a bit more lively than before. Ha ha! Xiao Hua laughed. Looking at the flickering inscriptions in the flames, he waved his hands and several fire pillars were like fire dragons. They circled around his body for a moment and then rushed towards West Buahong. West Buahong's red face was also surprised. He didn't expect Xianxia to be able to control the flames in the 5 brocade cloud painting. However, since he was already here, what else could he do? The surprise only lasted for a moment. The flames in West Wuhong's eyes jumped crazily. The flames around his body also soared to the sky. Between the waves of his hands, fireballs appeared out of thin air. They roared and rushed towards Xianxia's fire dragons. Rumble. This battle was completely different from the previous one. The sound of explosions shook the sky, like thousands of volcanoes erupting. The entire area within dozens of miles of the battle was shaking. The flames in the sky were monstrous and thick smoke was rolling. The black cloud ridge was covered with scarlet flames. If Xianxia's capital star array wasn't on the ridge, the entire black wind ridge would have been scorched red long ago. See. Not to mention Xianxia, even Do Shanjun, who understood Xianxia, sucked in a breath of cold air. The strength that Xianxia displayed was really too different from before. Do Shanjun was very clear about West Wuhong's strength. If he had the help of the 5 brocade cloud painting, Do Shanjun wasn't sure how strong West Wuhong could be. But even so, Xianxia was still able to fight him as an equal. This made Do Shanjun feel even more incredulous than when Xianxia defeated Xianxia. After all, Xianxia relied on the golden body of a body cultivator to deal with Xianxia. Do Shanjun had already seen Xianxia's immense strength. At this moment, Xianxia's magic power was boundless. Do Shanjun couldn't help but turn his head to look at Sir Beigua Zhenming of the Copper Pillar Academy. Beigua Zhenming's eyes were also filled with shock. It was obvious that their previous worries had come true. If Xianxia had this kind of magic power 100 days ago, Beigua Zhenming would be the one to run away. While Do Shanjun and the others were still in shock, the 5 brocade cloud painting underwent a new change. Xianxia waved his hand and dozens of fire talismans flew into the air. These fire talismans didn't immediately explode. Instead, they followed the fire dragons and landed 100 feet away from West Wuhong. It was a kind of magic array that trapped West Wuhong. Xianxia sneered, "Fellow Immortal, pay attention." Xianxia formed a seal in his hand, and the dozens of fire talismans exploded at the same time. Boom! A loud sound resounded, and dozens of fireballs rushed toward Wuhong like dragons playing with pearls. Roar! Xianxia's mastery of formations had already reached the acme of perfection. The fire talisman was even more so. At this moment, even if Wuhong wanted to dodge, he couldn't. However, 2 fire pearls suddenly flew out from his eyes. At the same time, the fire beast below him also roared loudly. A basket-sized Yao core flickered and spat out. Chapter 35:18. Swoosh! The 3 fire pearls immediately formed a triangle and protected Wuhong in the middle. Rise, rise, rise! Wuhong roared 3 times. 3 masses of noble spirit rushed out from the void near the 3 fire pearls. With a boom sound, the 3 fire pearls were ignited. Immediately after, the 3 fire pearls exploded even more violently than the fire talismans. Boom boom, woo woo. The 2 intense waves of fire quickly collided together, emitting a whimpering sound like a hurricane. Moreover, the flames mixed with the golden brocade soared into the sky like a gale, blowing Xianxia, who was in the distance, to the point that his figure swayed. Xianxia was already like this. How good could Wuhong be? Admittedly, the 3 fire pearls exploded around him, reducing the impact of the fire talismans. However, under the violent pressure of the waves of fire, he was like a scarecrow standing under the sea breeze. Kacha! A series of crisp sounds rang out. The flames around Wuhong's body were immediately extinguished. The fire armor on his body instantly cracked and flew out from the waves of fire. In a moment, it was unknown where he was swept away. It was also at this moment that Xianxia caught sight of Wuhong's true body. His body did not have much flesh and bones, and his skeleton-like face emitted a faint golden glow. His eyes, in particular, were pitch-black holes. There were no eyeballs at all. In just a snap of a finger, the countless flames leaped out from Wuhong's body and completely covered him. Ha! Xianxia, you're really powerful. Wuhong was forced to this extent by Xianxia, but instead of being angry, he was actually happy. He laughed loudly and said,
This old man has never seen a cultivator who can force this old man to this extent just by relying on fire control techniques.
Watch carefully. As he spoke, Shi Buohong flew up from the back of the fire beast.
With a tap of his foot, the flames around the fire beast's body flourished.
The noble spirit in the void crazily poured in.
Even the golden cloud brocade turned into a waterfall and rushed down.
The fire beast's body could be seen expanding with the naked eye. Pang! A loud sound rang out, and there were actually waves of chanting sounds. That fire beast actually exploded, and similarly, it enveloped Xiaohua's surroundings for several hundred feet. Buzz buzz. The flaming beast's flesh emitted a series of rumbling sounds, just like a Dao sect cultivator's Dharma artifact. Following the rumbling sounds, every piece of flesh began to rotate. Not only did it absorb the surrounding righteous qi and golden cloud brocade, but it also absorbed the raging flames. Xiaohua raised his brow as he looked at the flesh and blood of these fire beasts that had transformed into identical fire beasts. Sweeping them with his divine sense, he discovered that these fire beasts were not illusions and couldn't help feeling surprised. Roar! Tens of thousands of fire beasts raised their heads and roared at the same time. Tens of thousands of hurricanes swept away the flames that filled the sky. Without waiting for Xiaohua to think, all the fire beasts pounced on Xiaohua. This pounce didn't matter, but Xiaohua only felt that the space around him was completely confined. A kind of vague circular space formed around him. Within this space, his transcendence energy couldn't be mobilized. His hands and feet also became heavier than 10,000 caddies. It seemed that Shi Buohong was actually able to use a secret technique to completely suppress the power of the 5 brocade cloud painting within this space of 10 feet. If these tens of thousands of fire beasts pounced on him, even if his body was tough, he would still be crushed into meat paste. However, Xiaohua didn't seem to be afraid at all. He actually calmly stretched out his hand and pinched his chin twice, as if he was sizing up this earth-shattering wave of flames. This kind of confidence caused Shi Buohong, who was originally full of confidence in the sky, to feel greatly uneasy. Boom! Tens of thousands of identical fire beasts finally charged together. Xiaohua's figure was instantly engulfed by the flames. Shi Buohong's eyes seemed to see a huge firework that had never been seen before in the world. The space shook and fire snakes overflowed. Is it over? Shi Buohong's eyes flickered with a fiery light, as if his heart was filled with doubt. He somewhat didn't dare to believe it. After all, facing such a powerful attack, Xiaohua actually didn't resist. Looking at the center of the flames, Xiaohua's figure was nowhere to be seen. If he wasn't killed by tens of thousands of fire beasts, what kind of ending could there be? Although Shi Buohong didn't dare to believe it, seeing the flames before his eyes flourish, the fire beasts that had accompanied him for who knows how many years had already disappeared, and Xiaohua's figure still hadn't appeared. Shi Buohong could only sigh. To be able to pay such a huge price to kill Xiaohua, he didn't know whether to be happy or sad. But at this moment, an indifferent voice came from above his head. Shi Buohong, do you have any other methods? Xiaohua? The fiery light in Shi Buohong's eyes flourished. He hastily raised his head. Sure enough, the unscathed Xiaohua was standing in midair, coldly looking at him. His eyes carried a trace of disdain. Correct, it's me. Xiaohua coldly smiled and said, in order to kill the enemy, you actually abandoned your own demon pet. I really don't know whether I should be happy for it or not. Or whether I should be sad for it. Perhaps it was because Xiaohua was too sensitive, or perhaps it was because Xiaohua was also a cultivator of Buddhism, but when those tens of thousands of fiery beasts rushed towards him with indescribable solemnity, Xiaohua easily cast a fire escape spell and escaped from the deadly situation. It was also when Xiaohua escaped into the flames that he felt the fire beast's sorrow on the verge of death, that kind of reluctance to part with the world and its attachment to Shi Buohong. This is my business, it has nothing to do with you. Shi Buohong was similarly cold. The flames around his body flickered with a pu sound. What I want to know is, how did you escape from the Broken Tooth Beast's attack? Oh, so that pitiful fire beast's name is Broken Tooth. Shi Buohong, you really don't want to know how sad the Broken Tooth Beast was? You really don't want to know how much it didn't want to leave you? You really don't want to know how bitter the Broken Tooth Beast was when it lost its Yao Dan, as well as the pain of losing its life? Xiaohua looked at Shi Buohong and asked very calmly. Could it be that a victory is so important? I'm sure you've also seen that I don't intend to kill all of you. Even if you're not my match, No need to say so much. Shi Buahong waved his hand. I didn't think that Xiao Hua, who could write the bloodsteel, would actually be so wishy-washy. You've really disappointed me. I'll say it again. Whether the broken tooth beast lives or dies is my business, it has nothing to do with you. If you don't want to tell me how you escaped, then I'm leaving. If you want me to stay, then you can make a move. Since it's come to this, it looks like I'm absolutely not your match. AI. Xiao Hua's voice showed the vicissitudes of life. He really didn't understand what Shi Buahong was thinking. How many times had Xiao Hua been unwilling to let Little Black and Little Yellow, whether it was the Void or the Black Water Palace? Even when Little Silver and the Divine Power Centipede had come out of the space to take risks, this Shi Buahong had actually made the broken tooth beast self-destruct. Shi Buahong, haven't you heard of our Dao Sex escape technique? Xiao Hua thought for a bit, then sighed and replied in a low voice. 5 elements escape technique? Impossible. The flames in Shi Buahong's eyes shot out more than half a foot, and he was clearly particularly astonished. How can the Dao Sex 5 elements escape technique escape from my blazing fire array? There's nothing impossible in this world. Since you can give up the pet beast that you live with day and night, why can't I use the 5 elements escape technique to escape from your blazing fire array? Xiao Hua's tone was already indifferent. Besides, our Dao Sex spells are profound and unfathomable, as numerous as the stars in the sky. How much do you know? Go, for the sake of the broken tooth beast's dead. I won't take your life. Humph. Shi Buahong laughed coldly. Golden cloud brocade swirled around him, and his entire figure suddenly disappeared in midair. Even if you want to kill me, you have to look at the place first. Ha ha ha. Xiao Hua laughed so hard that tears were about to fall. After listening to Bai Ho's zither, Xiao Hua's heart really softened, and he shouted, Ignorant brat! Truly, the ignorant are fearless. Woo! While Xiao Hua was laughing, a touch of gray slowly appeared in the golden horizon, like a gray cloud in the clear sky. After this gray cloud appeared, it immediately floated towards Xiao Hua, and he saw 2 people standing on it. Xiao Hua put his hands behind his back, and indifferently looked at that gray cloud. When it got closer, he unconsciously frowned. Because on this gray cloud, the one behind it was precisely Do Shanjun that Xiao Hua somewhat didn't want to see. Only the one in front of him with a simple face, wearing a scholar's robe, Xiao Hua knew that he must be the Copper Pillar Academy's headmaster. Dao Sex Xiao Hua greets headmaster. He still respected this headmaster who didn't desperately try to kill him that day. After the gray cloud settled, Xiao Hua extended his hand and cupped his hands in greeting. Beigo Zhenming also didn't dare to be negligent, and similarly stood on the cloud and bowed in greeting. Copper Pillar Academy's Beigo Zhenming greets fellow Immortal Xiao. Oh, so it's Headmaster Beigo. Xiao Hua stared blankly and blinked his eyes. You Confucian cultivators' names are quite strange. Previously there was a Bai Ho, and now there's a Beigo. Aren't you looking down on this Xiao's ignorance? Hee hee. Hearing Xiao Hua's words, Beigo Zhenming's heart relaxed, and he said with a smile, Us Confucian cultivators have multiplied in the hidden immortal continent for who knows how many years. Whether it's a compound surname or a single surname, they all have a very long history. In ancient times, there were compound surnames such as Feng Lei, Feng Jiang, Feng Ren, Feng Fu, Fu Fu, Fu Fu, and so on. However, as the descendants of these compound surnames disappeared, the compound surnames also disappeared. Now, I'm afraid there aren't many left. Ouyang, Taisher, Duanmu, Shangguan, and so on still exist. Duanmu? Hee hee. I'm afraid the ones left behind are all Confucian cultivator families? Hearing the 2 words Duanmu, Xiao Hua said with a smile. Beigo Zhenming nodded and said, My Beigo family can also be considered a 7th-rank family, and can't be compared to the Duanmu family. Xiao Hua nodded and pulled the topic back. Previously, this Xiao didn't see fellow Immortal Beigo's true appearance, but now that I've seen it, it's exactly the solemnity of a Confucian cultivator. It can't be mentioned in the same breath as a certain person's handsomeness. It's no wonder that fellow Immortal Beigo can become the headmaster of an academy, while others can only be the headmaster. Chapter 35:19.
I wouldn't dare.
Beigo Zhenming seemed to have seen through Xiao Hua's narrow-mindedness and understood that he was referring to Dou Shanjun.
He shook his head and hurriedly replied.
Then Xiao Hua continued, "Also, I would like to thank fellow Immortal Beigo for not blaming me for the offense of pushing down the gate." This. Beigo Zhenming smiled bitterly. "Fellow Immortal Beigo doesn't need to thank me. I came here today to punish you, but seeing how mighty you are, how could I dare to say a word?
I only hope that fellow Immortal Beigo won't make things difficult for the students of my Copper Pillar Academy after you escape from this formation.
Every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. I understand this." Xiao Hua smiled coldly, his gaze sweeping across the clouds like a sharp sword. "If I don't kill those culprits, I don't mind staining my hands with blood again." "Yes, I understand. I'm sure the others also understand this." Beigo Zhenming nodded and said, "Today, I was ordered by the monarch to set up the 5 brocade cloud painting because I wanted to meet fellow Immortal Beigo and let others know how powerful fellow Immortal Beigo is." "Good." Xiao Hua flung his sleeve. "You all set up the formation. I didn't get to fight to my heart's content in the Copper Pillar Academy. Today, I'll have a taste of fellow Immortal Beigo's techniques."
"I wouldn't dare."
"The techniques we use are for worldly affairs. Fellow Immortal Beigo, please be careful." Beigo Zhenming cautioned very carefully. "I know. Go ahead and use it." Xiao Hua smiled faintly and waved his hand. The seal of overturning the sea rushed out of the space with a rumbling sound and blocked Xiao Hua's body in an earthy yellow brilliance. Just as Beigo Zhenming and Xiao Hua greeted each other, the gray cloud brocade had already covered the entire formation. What was different from the previous formations was that the ground beneath everyone's feet was also gray, as if it was an ordinary layer of earth. Xiao Hua's gaze swept over it and immediately understood that this 5 brocade cloud painting was probably related to the 5 elements. Now, it could be considered as earth. Sure enough, Beigo Zhenming stood on top of the gray cloud and raised his hand. The tall crown fell off, and a head of gray hair fell down. Dou Shanjun, who was standing behind him a moment ago, had already hidden behind the brocade cloud. Moreover, a moment later, he appeared in another place. Beigo Zhenming's voice. Meng Xiaoxi surges. Lush greenery. My grief is forever mourning, and I gurgled into the southern soil. Kong Jing was humorous. Depressed and depressed, he bowed deeply. To soothe the feelings and serve one's will, to restrain one's grievances. Just when I thought I was going to make amends, I didn't do it for you. As Beigo Zhenming's voice drifted through the entire space, the sky instantly darkened, and the earth fell silent. It was as if rain had descended from the void, but also as if there was a sorrowful noble qi gathered from all directions. A great river and the boundless black land on both sides of the river appeared before their eyes. Ha! Although Xiao Hua could sense Beigo Zhenming's concern for the country and its people, and he could also understand the bitterness in his words, Xiao Hua didn't feel anything special. He only smiled and sensed a very strong earth-type spiritual energy from the righteous qi. The greenish-gray brocade began to solidify into a solid layer of earth. At this moment, Dou Shanjun opened his mouth again. To the north of the mountain, the words of the qi are chosen. Together with scholars, they worked day and night. The imperial affairs are dispirited, and I worry about my parents. Under the heavens, all is the imperial land. On the shores of the earth, all are the imperial subjects. The doctors are unequal, and I work alone. The 4 mountains are booming, and the imperial affairs are close. I am not old yet, and I am fresh in my generals. The military power is strong, and I manage the 4 directions. Or the swallow lives in peace. Or the country does its best. Or I lie on the bed. Or I don't work. Or I don't know how to call. Or I fail miserably. Or I perch, or I lie down. Or the imperial affairs are in charge. Or I drink wine happily. Or I suffer miserably. Or there are rumors. Or I don't do anything. Following this voice, the awe-inspiring qi in the great formation rapidly transformed. The imperial court, the palace, the capital, the town, the army, the village, and so on swarmed out. A kind of indescribable majesty, a kind of awe that restricted the mind, spiraled around Xiao Hua like invisible shackles. Soon after, there was an extremely large amount of chanting coming from behind Yun Jin. The world is vast, all is the imperial land. On the shores of the earth, all are the imperial subjects. The chanting was like a monk chanting sutras. Sentence after sentence, each sentence gave birth to a ring of awe-inspiring qi that was several thousand feet in size. It fell toward Xianxia like a tight hoop. This ring encircled another ring, and the rings were unbroken.
Xianxia furrowed his brows and tried to escape in midair.
However, no matter how he dodged, that ring would not disappear. It could always accurately find Xianxia. Go. Xianxia smiled coldly and pointed his finger. The seal of overturning the sea rushed out, whistling as it pounced towards that ring. Boom! Like a thunderbolt, several rings were shattered by the seal of overturning the sea. They turned into dirt and slowly fell down, unable to pose any threat to Xianxia. Headmaster Beigua. Xianxia smiled faintly.
If this is all you have, then you'd better retreat.
Beigua Zhenming smiled bitterly. Xianxia's move seemed very easy, but the seal of overturning the sea was facing the attack of several hundred Bronze Pillar Academy students. Not to mention these students, even he and Do Shanjun did not dare to hold back just now. Taoist magic has actually reached such a miraculous level? Beigua Zhenming sighed inwardly and hurriedly said, "Fellow Immortal Xiao, thank you for letting me win." As they spoke, Beigua Zhenming and Do Shanjun slapped their foreheads at the same time. Two streams of true qi soared into the sky. As the true qi fell into the gray brocade, palm-sized dirt rings suddenly appeared in the air around Xianxia. These air rings were like bubbles, flying towards the space around Xianxia's body. There were rotating true qi between the air rings. These true qi were green-gray in color, and they displayed an extremely powerful suction and confinement force. Ouch! Xianxia was clearly caught unprepared. The surrounding space of several hundred feet was controlled by these air rings. Not to mention the true essence in his body, even Xianxia's powerful physical body was practically unable to move. Damn it, I was a bit careless. I fell for Old Man Beigua's trick of luring the tiger away from the mountain. Xianxia was somewhat regretful. His whole body flashed with golden light, and he struggled to move a few times. He wanted to urge his magic power to control the seal of turning the sea, but not only was his magic power unable to rush out, the seal of turning the sea was even tumbling in mid-air, not listening to him at all. What surprised Xianxia the most was not this, but those strange air rings. The confinement force and suction force of these air rings were very random, and they were constantly changing. There were even more air rings, and they were like a layer of soil that wanted to drown Xianxia. The most special thing was that there was a kind of aura within the air rings that Xianxia was unfamiliar with. This aura gave birth to a kind of fear and submission that Xianxia had never felt before. This kind of feeling had always interfered with Xianxia's cultivation and resistance. Roar! Xianxia roared, and the golden light around his body flashed again. He forcibly displayed the heavenly law embodiment technique. Xianxia even waved the wishful staff, wanting to break this strange confinement force. Unfortunately, this confinement force was so powerful and so smooth. Under Xianxia's wishful staff, dozens of air rings immediately slipped away under the staff's wind. The wishful staff had no place to exert force at all. As for the Transcendent's golden body, it was suppressed by a powerful force, as if the whole world had fallen on the shoulders of this golden body. Governing the world. Understanding this confinement that could not be jumped out, Xianxia understood the power of the means of the Confucian cultivators. In addition to the ordinary power of the Tao sex magic, the Confucian cultivators also added the study of governing the world. In addition to the power of the mountains, this confinement should also contain the power of royalty and the power of submission, right? Ranger. When he thought of royalty, Xianxia naturally thought of Zhongquan. He looked at the air rings that were increasingly gushing out from the left side. Now there were hundreds of air rings, and he couldn't even move his fingers. He couldn't help but have a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. Buzz! Xiaohua's whole body flashed with brilliance, and a bright sword light was born from Xiaohua's body. A heart shape slowly emerged from the sword light. Transform into a sword? Beigo Zhenming was so surprised that his chin almost fell. The inscription of governing the world in his mouth was almost interrupted. He really didn't think that Xiaohua would have the swordsmanship of the Confucian cultivators, and this swordsmanship had already reached a very high level. Just as Beigo Zhenming was surprised, a giant sword had already emerged from the hundreds of air rings. Xiao Hua's voice was like the sound of the sword coming out from the giant's sword, resounding throughout the entire array. The ruler is the head of the country. The ruler is wise and the country flourishes. The ruler is weak and the country is weak. The great hero is for the country and the people. The small hero is chivalrous and righteous. Although it is the ruler's order, no one dares to disobey. But I turned my body into a sword and asked for the people's order. The ruler is wise and the ruler is weak and the country is destroyed. Since you are the ruler, you should have the world in your heart, and the sea accepts hundreds of rivers. Today's ruler, for his own selfishness, I have a benevolent heart and want to turn the tide. I will kill you, and return the world to peace and prosperity. Kill. As he spoke, the giant's sword turned into the shape of a heart and soared into the sky from the confinement. Moreover, the sword light was more dazzling than a rainbow piercing the sun. It easily streaked through the array, and a huge crack appeared in the gray cloud brocade. The entire blue sky and the earth under their feet cracked open, and the thousands of incantations stopped abruptly. Beigo Zhenming's face was ashen. Facing Xiao Hua's sword attack, he was confident that he didn't have the ability to take it. Moreover, Xiao Hua was able to defeat him as a Confucian cultivator. He was also speechless. Looking up at the equally shocked Do Shanjun, both of them sighed softly. They stretched out their hands, and gray cloud brocade appeared. Their figures slowly disappeared. The sword light was like a horse, and the sword intent was like a heart. When Xiao Hua escaped from the sword, thousands of sword lights entered his body. Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and looked at the sky that was already empty. He smiled and said, Leng Qingge, this Xiao has already broken through 5 layers of the 5 brocade cloud diagram. Do you have any other tricks? Xiao Hua, I have to say, this old man has really underestimated you. Leng Qingge's figure was now only about 10 feet tall. He stood in the sky to the east and said indifferently, However, if you think that the 5 brocade cloud diagram only has this much power, then you have underestimated the defensive array of my Confucian cultivator. Chapter 35:20. Oh, that's unexpected. Xiao Hua frowned and asked curiously, Could it be that you still have a backup plan for this defensive formation? Ha ha ha, it's not just a backup plan. Leng Qingge laughed loudly. The entire 5 brocade cloud diagram hasn't been used yet. What happened before was just a warm-up for us. Humph. Xiao Hua snorted coldly. He pointed at the seal of turning sea that was still in midair and shouted, Since that's the case, then I'll let you see what this Xiao is capable of. Fellow immortals, why haven't you shown yourselves yet? How could Leng Qingge let Xiao Hua make the first move?
With a loud roar and a wave of his sleeve, layers of cloud brocade blocked the seal of the ocean like the waves of the sea.
Following Leng Qingge's command, Beigo Zhenming, Shi Buohong, Bai Hou Yuqin, and Jiang Yuming simultaneously stood on the other 4 sides of the horizon. As soon as the 4 of them appeared, they looked at each other and took out a silk handkerchief from their robes. This silk handkerchief was exactly the same color as the cloud brocade they each controlled. Seeing the 4 silk handkerchiefs appear, Leng Qingge opened his mouth. Pooh! A blood-red light appeared and a scarlet-red silk handkerchief rushed out. When that silk handkerchief appeared in midair, the other 4 silk handkerchiefs moved without any wind. At the same time, they soared into the sky and slowly expanded, looking like 4 banners. Leng Qingge and the other 4 raised their hands and slapped the top of their heads. 5 streams of true qi soared into the sky and hit the 5 silk handkerchiefs. Ka-cha-cha! 5 different colored thunderbolts appeared from the void and surrounded the 5 silk handkerchiefs. Boom! The silk handkerchiefs let out a trembling sound. Inscriptions rushed out of the silk handkerchiefs like millions of tadpoles. Immediately, the cloud brocade within the 5 brocade cloud diagram rushed into the vibrating silk handkerchiefs like a whale sucking in water. The rumbling sounds from the silk handkerchiefs grew louder and louder, and the inscriptions fell into the true energy of Leng Qingge and the others. Slowly, 5 more children appeared within the inscriptions. As soon as the 5 children were complete, they waved their hands, causing thunderbolts to strike the silk handkerchiefs in front of them. The inscriptions on the silk handkerchiefs began to solidify, and in the blink of an eye, 5 strange objects appeared. These strange objects continued to be surrounded by thunderbolts. 5 Qi righteous thunder rise. Leng Qingge let out a soft whistle, which was a rare sight. True Qi surrounded her body and spun towards the top of her head, carrying the Z as she flew towards the center of the formation. The 5 children flew to the center at the same time and opened their mouths. 5 mouthfuls of genuine Qi fell into the void, forming a thumb-sized 5-colored Qi mass. Then the 5 children raised their hands and sent 5 similarly strange things into the 5-colored Qi mass. Kacha! The 5-colored thunderbolts intertwined with each other, and the 5 strange things condensed into one within the thunderbolts. This is... Seeing this strange thing that looked like an inkstone forming in the sky, Xiaohua was dumbfounded. Isn't this the broken magic treasure in this Zhao space? Of course, this strange thing looked like a quadrilateral, but the edges of this quadrilateral were extremely irregular. Rather than calling it an inkstone, it was more like a high platform. On one side of the high platform, there were 3 protrusions, like antennae. On the opposite side of the high platform, there were 2 protrusions, like tail fins, slanted into the air. This high platform was covered with true inscriptions, one after another, layer after layer. On one side of the high platform, there were 3 shining golden inscriptions deeply engraved on it. The position of these 3 inscriptions were almost exactly the same as the 3 tadpole-like characters in Xiaohua's space. Xiaohua could clearly see these 3 inscriptions. They were the Immortal execution stage. Hiss, Xiaohua once again sucked in a breath. Today, Lang Qingge gave him a lot of surprises. He didn't think that the thing in his space was actually the Immortal execution stage. Looking at those 3 large characters, they seemed to contain boundless majesty, and also emitted a myriad of bloody auras from within, making people who saw them feel an indescribable fear in their heart. Just as Xiaohua was shocked, behind the distant clouds, a thoughtful face flashed by. It was precisely that Copper Pillar Academy's judge, Du Shanjun. However, not only Xiaohua didn't know, even the 5 people controlling the Immortal execution stage didn't know. Immediately, 5 pitch-black whirlpools appeared in the sky above the Immortal execution stage. The 5 whirlpools separately faced the 5 protrusions like antennae. Kacha! 5 different colored thunderbolts were born from the void, falling on the antennae. Immediately, the entire Immortal execution stage violently shook. The 5 types of thunderbolts flashed in succession above the Immortal execution stage, simultaneously condensing into a bowl-shaped 5-colored heavenly thunder, striking towards Xiaohua. 5 Qi righteous thunder. Xiaohua was startled. He didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly tried to dodge. However, as the heavenly thunder struck down, just like the previous lightning tribulation, the space around Xiaohua was imprisoned. Xiaohua couldn't even move. Damn it! Xiaohua turned pale with fright.
Looking at the 5-colored heavenly thunder that transformed into a guillotine and roared down, he really doubted whether his body could withstand it.
This was the Immortal execution stage, This 5-colored heavenly thunder was definitely a heavenly punishment, completely different from ordinary lightning. Xiaohua's thoughts were like lightning. That 5-colored heavenly thunder was even faster than lightning. It simply didn't allow Xiaohua to dodge. With a loud kacha sound, it had already struck Xiaohua's right side. Ah! Xiaohua let out a blood-curdling scream. The flesh on his right arm was immediately charred black. The lightning penetrated his skin at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his originally plump muscles also instantly shriveled. If Xiaohua's demonic phoenix body hadn't gone through 3 gold lightning tribulations and been tempered for many years, this strike would have already shattered him. In an instant, Xiaohua slightly raised his left hand, wanting to use the Blood Devil's saber to strike down the Immortal execution stage. However, he slightly clenched his teeth and endured. The Blood Devil's saber is a demonic weapon. It must not be revealed in the hidden Immortal continent, unless Xiaohua was willing to kill everyone in the Black Wind Mountain range. Little Thunder. Suddenly, Xiaohua's heart moved. He immediately thought of the Thunder Beast cub under the damaged Immortal execution stage. This little guy was living a carefree life under the lightning water of the Immortal executioner stage. In the past 100 years there was no movement. Moreover, Xiaohua also discovered from the 5 Qi righteous thunders that this so-called Immortal executioner stage might not be the real Immortal executioner stage. The 5 Qi righteous thunders below the level of a fake were the most difficult to resist. The real Thunder Beast would definitely not be afraid of these fake 5 Qi righteous thunders. Thinking about this, Xiaohua's mind immediately entered the space, preparing to pull Little Thunder out of the lightning water under the damaged Immortal execution stage. At this moment, green-robed Xiaohua suddenly appeared in front of Jade Archive Xiaohua and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist, can you let me go out for a walk?" "Fellow Taoist, are you going out to look for trouble?" Jade Archive Xiaohua naturally knew that as long as he entered the space, green-robed Xiaohua would know what happened outside. He didn't explain and rebuked. Green-robed Xiaohua said with a smile, "Our nascent soul is really weak now. Recently, I have been thinking about how to make him healthy. Isn't there 5-colored heavenly thunder outside right now? Why don't we let our nascent soul bathe in the lightning water, so that it can wash his marrow?" When Jade Archive Xiaohua heard this, his face changed greatly and said in shock, "Fellow Taoist, are you crazy? Our nascent soul is weak. How can it see the lightning? Under this lightning punishment, won't it turn into ashes?
Our 100 years of bitter cultivation have become water?
Fellow Taoist, you are too concerned and your mind is even more chaotic." Green-robed Xiaohua said with a smile, "Our nascent soul is fused with the inner cores of male and female lightning beasts. Although it can't directly control this heavenly thunder, it is not necessarily afraid of this thunder, right? In addition, don't forget that this 5-colored heavenly thunder is somewhat different from the heavenly thunder that fellow Taoist normally controls. It contains the 5 qi of Confucian cultivators. This 5 qi is extremely beneficial to the 5 internal organs. If our nascent soul is nourished by this 5-colored heavenly thunder, it will definitely grow strong. That's right, fellow Taoist, don't forget that our nascent soul is in the form of a nebula. Even if it can't withstand a blow from the 5-colored heavenly thunder, it can still disperse the power of the lightning tribulation between the nebula." This green-robed Xiaohua said so much, Jade Archive Xiaohua naturally understood. However, this matter was of great importance. He really didn't dare to make a rash judgment. "Let's go quickly. If we don't go now, it will be too late. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity," green-robed Xiaohua urged. "You don't need to pay attention to it, just send I into the nascent soul." "All right." Xiaohua clenched his teeth. He knew that his nascent soul had just been born. If it was an ordinary tempering, it would take more than 1,000 years or even several thousand years of bitter cultivation to reach the large success stage of nascent soul. If green-robed Xiaohua's guess was correct, this was a shortcut in front of him. Of course, this shortcut was exchanged with the life of a nascent soul and the pain of the lightning tribulation. "Let's go." Jade Archive Xiaohua knew that this was not the time for him to think too much. He brought green-robed Xiaohua and little Lei out of the space. In just a short moment, the second 5-colored heavenly thunder had already fallen. Xiaohua's back had already caved in a large area. Seeing that the third 5-colored heavenly thunder was about to fall, Xiaohua hurriedly sent little Lei out of his head and urged his nascent soul to come out from his lower dantian. Ka-cha-cha! The 5 qi righteous thunder precisely landed on Xiao Lei's body. The 5-colored thunder flashed and immediately fused into Xiao Lei's body. Only a very small part of it fell down, and this part was once again pulled into Xiao Lei's body by the nascent soul general standing on top of Xiaohua's head. Boom! Under the 5-colored heavenly thunder, although it was only a small part, the nascent soul immediately began to collapse. Xiaohua's mind was in incomparable pain. Even his lower dantian felt a tearing pain. Xiaohua was shocked. He knew that the nascent soul and green-robed Xiaohua were both injured. He hurriedly urged green-robed Xiaohua to take back his nascent soul. However, green-robed Xiaohua endured the pain and said, "Fellow Taoist, don't be anxious. I will try again." "Damn it, you don't want to live anymore." Xiaohua was really anxious. He was about to forcibly take back his nascent soul into his dantian, but at this moment, the nascent soul's body flashed with a 5-colored brilliance. It waved its 2 small hands and a silvery white crystal thread appeared out of thin air. It flashed and immediately entered the nascent soul's body. Then, the nascent soul sat cross-legged with its palms facing the sky and began to circulate its heart sutra. The collapsed soul slowly recovered. Chapter 35-21. That's right. Don't I still have the metal essence new essence? How could I forget about it now? Xiaohua suddenly woke up and hurriedly waved his hand. The metal essence new essence he obtained from the sword catacomb array was immediately sent into his meridians. His body also activated the cultivation method to refine it. That rich gold attribute true essence fell into his lower dantian and transformed into thin crystal threads that rushed into his nascent soul from the void. This is Xiaohua's demon pet? Lang Qingge saw this black monster land on top of Xiaohua's head and help him block the 5 qi righteous thunder. He couldn't help but be shocked. He had never seen a demon that could resist the 5 qi righteous thunder. Lang Qingge couldn't help but shout, "How can this demon pet resist the heavenly punishment thunder?" Not to mention a demon pet, even a scholar wouldn't dare to resist the 5 qi righteous thunder. Monarch. When he obtained this item, wasn't he already informed? Kill. While Lang Qingge was secretly pondering, the distant West Bodhisattva roared. The fire on top of his head suddenly rushed up. Once West Bodhisattva moved, Lang Qingge and the others had no choice but to move. This was the so-called pulling one hair in one hair will affect the whole body. 5 rays of true energy rushed up the immortal beheading stage. Under the urging of these 5 rays of true energy, the 5 brocade cloud diagrams noble chi rushed into the immortal beheading stage. In the void, another 5-colored thunderbolt rushed out. Ka-cha-cha! Another bolt of 5 qi righteous thunder fell. This time, the lightning not only fell on Little Thunder's body, it also fell on the nascent soul's body. Pain, tearing, numbness, living a life worse than death, all kinds of feelings rushed into Xiaohua's mind more violently than a storm. His entire body was trembling violently, and a lot of leaked lightning also landed on his body. Damn it, this is really retribution. This Grandpa's Foundation establishment and Gold Core both went through the lightning tribulation, but my nascent soul was in the void. The void doesn't give birth to lightning tribulation, but I didn't expect to come here and experience it again. Xiaohua really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He could only grit his teeth and endure. The 5 qi righteous thunders struck one after another, a total of 81 strikes. Not to mention Xiaohua, even the 5 Confucian cultivators on the 5 brocade cloud diagram, as well as countless other students after the 5 Confucian cultivators, couldn't take it. In the end, the 5 people's true qi ran out and the 5 children immediately collapsed. The immortal slaying stage also collapsed and turned back into 5 silk handkerchiefs. They quickly shrank and floated in front of the 5 powerless people. Ha! Xiaohua slightly straightened his back and shouted, "What's wrong? This Xiao still hasn't washed enough. I still haven't washed off the dirty water you Confucian cultivators poured on me. Why was there no more lightning water? Quick! This Xiao still wants more." Indeed, Xiaohua's Yuanying seemed to have eaten a great tonic pill and grew a lot stronger. It was unknown how many years of bitter cultivation it was. "Humph, Xiaohua, don't worry. I'll let you have your fill soon." Lang Qingge sneered and disappeared into the cloud brocade. The other 4 also disappeared. "Humph, this Xiao also knows how to sneer." Xiaohua also coldly snorted and said, "If you have any ability, take it out." The little guy finally woke up. Right at this moment, Lei Zaizi, who had blocked the lightning for Xiaohua earlier, actually opened his eyes. He blinked his eyelids and stretched his body in satisfaction. He grinned at Xiaohua and flipped his body in midair, looking left and right as if he was looking for something. "It's good that you're awake." Xiaohua knew that Little Thunder was looking for lightning water. In his eyes, that thing was like the human race's milk. Xiaohua raised his hand and Little Thunder obediently fell into his hand. Xiaohua touched Little Thunder's forehead and Little Thunder unexpectedly rubbed its head against Xiaohua's hand like little silver and even raised its neck to lick it. "Go back and sleep a little more." Seeing that Little Thunder's eyes were still a little scattered, Xiaohua sent it into the space again. Sure enough, under the lightning water, Little Thunder fell asleep again. 5 qi thunder is really interesting. Could it be that this 5 qi universe has other uses? Seeing that the 5 qi thunder could actually wake Little Thunder up, Xiaohua couldn't help but think more. However, he didn't have time to think too much. Green-robed Xiaohua's weak voice was heard. "Fellow Taoist, quickly send me back to rest. Those heavenly lightning almost killed I." "Hee, who told you to show off?" Xiaohua smiled as he sent green-robed Xiaohua back. He even sent his nascent soul into his lower dantian to recuperate. The nascent soul gained a lot from this lightning tribulation and still needed to digest it carefully. Xiaohua had just sent green-robed Xiaohua back when he saw that in the sky, the 5 people who had just hidden themselves had appeared again. However, the 5 people were no longer as arrogant as before and their faces were clearly pale. Seeing this, Xiaohua laughed brightly. The 5 of you, don't you want to rest a little more after being tired for so long? This Xiao isn't in a hurry. What are you waiting for?
Humph, Xiaohua, don't be too proud.
Xianxia said. You have the Dao Sex Imperial Lightning Technique and a demon pet that avoids lightning. Being able to dodge the 5 Qi Thunder is within our expectations. However, you can only be arrogant for a little while longer. Wait until my Confucian 5 Sons Ascension appears. How can you still survive? Confucian 5 Sons Ascension? Haha, Xianxia. Let's not talk about ascension. Do you still have true qi in your body to fight with this Xiao? You're really not afraid of twisting your waist when you talk big. Xiaohua laughed loudly. Who said that executing Confucian 5 Sons Ascension requires the consumption of true qi? Xianxia proudly waved his hand and a simple scroll appeared in his hand. Calligraphy scroll? Xiaohua was stunned and immediately thought of the calligraphy scroll that was similar to the Dao Sex Talisman spell.
Not good.
Xiaohua immediately understood Xianxia's intention and secretly cursed in his heart. He had seen the power of the calligraphy scroll on Zhai Xinglu. The law written by the so-called legalist senior Han Chang had left a deep impression on him. The law character could really be described as iron hook and silver stroke. Each stroke contained an extremely powerful sword qi. Not to mention the authentic work written by the senior Han Fizi that Fu Jiwen had mentioned. Once the authentic work was opened, it could directly kill more than 100 demon generals. If Xianxia had the authentic work of Han Fizi, with Xiaohua's current situation, even if he wanted to escape, he wouldn't be able to, right? There was no other outcome other than death. After the shock, Xiaohua calmed down again. He raised his right hand and held the wishful staff in his hand. His left hand also slightly raised, but after a few movements, he put it down again. The righteous qi of the Confucian cultivator was the nemesis of the demon world's demon flame. If he couldn't resist the power of the calligraphy scroll, he was afraid that the blood devil saber wouldn't be able to either. His cultivation in the demon world was still shallow, and not enough to fully exert the power of the blood devil saber. Therefore, Xiaohua's left hand pointed and the seal of turning the sea fell on top of his head. Its brilliance overflowed and the coiling dragon broke free from the seal of turning the sea. The whole dragon body turned into a few feet long and swam around the seal of turning the sea. The ferocious dragon head roared at the sky.
Immortal friend, please make your move.
Xianxia raised his hand and held the scroll in front of his chest. He smiled at Zibahong and the others. His smile was full of ease. It was obvious that he didn't believe that Xiaohua could survive the attack of the Confucian 5 Sons Ascension. When Zibahong heard this, he didn't hesitate to wave his hand and the flashing flame hand grabbed an equally ancient scroll. Beigo Zhenming was a bit hesitant. He glanced at Bai Ho and Yuqin. Both of their eyes showed helplessness. They then reached into their small Chenkuan bags and took out their scrolls. Jiang Yuming narrowed his eyes and looked at the seal of turning the sea above Xiaohua's head, as well as the coiling dragon near the seal of turning the sea. He clenched his teeth and a few feet-long scroll flew to his chest. See. Seeing the 5 Confucian cultivators take out 5 scrolls at the same time, how could Xiaohua not know the reason for the Confucian 5 Sons Ascension? They were actually using 5 scrolls to attack him at the same time. This was synonymous with a gang fight. Ha ha! Xiaohua looked up to the sky and laughed. Golden light flickered around his body as he used the Heavenly Law's embodiment technique. He grew to more than 200 feet and the wishful staff in his hand also grew to several hundred feet. He looked at the 5 Confucian cultivators and said in a clear voice, "The methods of Confucian cultivators are really laughable. You people can't beat this Xiao, so you actually want to go back and ask for senior's help. This ancient Confucian cultivator senior actually knows how to show kindness to the younger generation. Even after death, he still wants to leave behind his original work. Forget it, forget it, after beating up the young, I naturally have to bring out the old. This Xiao wants to see what a nest of old and young can do to this Xiao."
Xiaohua's words were very sinister.
He even scolded the ancient Confucian who left behind the original work. However,
Xiao Hua's words were the truth. Even if Bai Hou Yuqin's face was a little red, there was nothing to refute.
Humph, brat. Give up your life.
Lang Qingge unfolded the scroll in his hand.
Kang! A huge sword cry came from the scroll.
Shua! A sword light rushed out from the scroll at the same time.
Rumble! Then, a burst of muffled thunder came from the void. Thousands of noble qi rushed into the swordlight and a huge law character appeared above Xiao Hua's head. When this character appeared, Xiao Hua's body trembled.
The 9-sword intense in his middle dantian that could no longer be considered flying swords could no longer be suppressed.
Xiao Hua opened his mouth. Woo woo! 9 sword lights rushed out and released a strong sword cry in the air. Looking at this familiar law character, Xiao Hua's mouth was filled with bitterness. Wasn't this the scroll that he saw in Jianghu that day? However, this scroll's sword chi seemed to be much weaker than before. He didn't know if Lang Qingge was controlling it wrongly or if Duanmu Qing had already used it after bidding for it that day. It's really enemies will not meet. Damn it, this Xiao Hua had only seen this thing once in the auction. Who would have thought that in less than 100 days, this thing would be used on this Xiao Hua's body? After Xiao Hua felt helpless, he looked at the much weaker sword light and felt a little relieved. After all, this scroll's sword light was extremely strong that day and he was definitely not its opponent. Now that this scroll had been used and he had advanced to the nascent soul stage, he might have a chance. However, before the law character could fall, boom! Another loud sound came.
Shi Buohong laughed sinisterly and opened the scroll in his hand.
Similarly, an indescribably terrifying aura came out from the scroll. Chapter 35-22. It was also a scroll that Xiao Hua was familiar with. 2 bright and dark rays of light soared into the sky, stirring up the righteous qi in the formation. Above Xiao Hua's head, a huge yin-yang fish was formed. Thousands of murderous qi, alternating between light and dark, and a solemn desire to annihilate everything passed through the sky and firmly enveloped Xiao Hua's golden Buddha statue. Zhou Yuan Han. Yin-yang qi transformation. Xiao Hua looked at the abnormal trembling void above his head. His heart was also extremely pounding. What virtue and ability did this Xiao have, to actually be favored by the esoteric debate's authentic work? This bronze pillar country's monarch. Seems like he really wants to kill this Xiao Ah. While Xiao Hua was shocked, he subconsciously looked at Beigo Zhenming and the other 2. Their document scrolls had yet to be opened, but Xiao Hua already had a premonition that the 4 document scrolls he had seen at Jianghu would all be revealed today. He just didn't know what the last document scroll was. However, Xiao Hua did not panic despite his shock. Wasn't this the effect he wanted? In a flash, the law character had already formed a sword net that could annihilate all things. Under the sword light, the void was completely torn apart. Countless righteous qi also came crashing down. At this level, all techniques and spells were void. Only absolute strength had a chance of survival. Not only that, the yin-yang fish also brazenly activated on the other side. It seemed like 2 completely opposite righteous qi were swirling within the yin-yang fish. This swirling was even more ruthless than the sword net. Xiao Hua could almost see the intent of death from the 2 rays of light. This was only 2 scrolls. Immortal friend Beigo. Lang Qingge opened the scroll and very proudly looked at the huge law character descending from the sky. Seeing that Beigo Zhenming and the others were still holding onto the scrolls and had not opened them, he frowned and transmitted his voice. Beigo Zhenming smiled bitterly and hurriedly said, "State teacher, 2 scrolls should be enough. These scrolls will be used less every time they are used. The authentic works of ancient great scholars are really precious. This is not for you to consider. Hurry up and open them." Lang Qingge coldly replied, "The monarch has put in so much effort to kill the chicken to scare the monkey. He wants to establish the reputation of the #1 empire in the hidden immortal continent." Understood. Since Lang Qingge had already said so much, how could Beigo Zhenming and the others dare to delay any further? Beigo Zhenming shook the scroll in his hand, and a black light soared into the sky. With a similarly loud roar, thousands of green auras rushed out of the void. Surrounded by the light, a huge earth character rushed out of the scroll. As soon as the earth character appeared in the air, it immediately gave off a heavy feeling, which was heavier than any mountain. The noble qi that had previously surged into the law character and the yin-yang fish surged into the earth character. Ha ha ha, Senior Lu Qingzi of the Farmers clan is indeed a great scholar. Lang Qingge laughed loudly and said, "This earth character is really heavy. It can compare to many great scholars in an instant." Seeing Beigua Zhenming open the scroll, Bai Hou Yuqin didn't dare to be careless. She flicked the scroll in her hand and like a heavenly river pouring down, tens of millions of lights flashed and rushed towards Xiaohua. What was special was that when these lights appeared, a 10,000 zhang tall pillar of energy soared into the sky. The originally seamless 5-brocade cloud diagram immediately had a large gap in it. The power of the stars mixed with the aura of the stars was endless. Even the divine sense couldn't see the end of it. At this moment, the law and earth characters, the yin-yang fish, and the noble qi river surrounded Xiaohua from all sides. Not to mention escaping. Even Xiaohua's breathing was heavy. He then looked at Jiang Yuming, who had yet to make a move. He flew in front of everyone, waved his hand, and opened the scroll. Just as Xiaohua expected, the void shook violently, as if 10,000 horses were galloping. A 5-colored brilliance mixed with an indescribable aura of righteousness rushed out from the scroll. That 5-colored aura of righteousness rushed into the sky, and unexpectedly formed a several zhang large auspicious cloud, illuminating the entire great array. That 5-colored brilliance and the 5 colors of the 5-brocade cloud painting mutually reflected each other, and was extremely gentle. Boom! At the same time, endless starlight faintly sprinkled down from the gap in the formation created by the scroll, enveloping the auspicious cloud. This scroll was the Confucianism, written by the great Confucian, Kong Liwen. It was also this Confucianism that created the auspicious cloud of the 5 Qi's origin. When this auspicious cloud of the 5 Qi's origin appeared, it instantly fell down and joined together with the 4 scrolls that were previously shot out. Not only did this auspicious cloud become increasingly faint, even the strange phenomena of the other 4 scrolls became exceptionally clear. It was as if 5 cultivators comparable to 5th grade origin energy were joining forces to attack Xiaohua. Seeing an unprecedented predicament, seeing an unprecedented attack, Xiaohua's blood boiled, and he threw caution to the wind. His eyes that were originally flickering with starlight gradually turned blood red. He shouted loudly, "Good! Then I'll let you all see this Zhao's methods. See if I don't empty out all of your treasures, then you won't show off this Zhao's methods." Xiaohua's body flashed with an intense golden light. The Confucian cultivator Xiaohua in his middle dantian urged the true qi in his body. 9 sword lights flickered in the air. First it was 9, then it was 18, then 32. Finally, it actually transformed into several hundred sword lights. These 100 sword lights emitted a thunderous rumbling sound, and rushed straight forward towards the law character that was like a sword net. Go! In the Naiwan Palace, the Buddha Saraira waved the clear water bottle, and a pool of innate true water appeared in the air, roaring as it pounced towards the noble spirit river. Looking at the green-robed Xiaohua again. He had already been pulled out by Xiaohua. He forced the invisible Yuanying to escape from his lower dantian and landed on Xiaohua's shoulder. The magic treasure furnace was also released, and it emitted the same loud rumbling sound. It flashed with a brilliant brilliance and flew into the air. Not only that, the Yuanying also pointed its hand, and the ice mirror also flew out. 3 colors of misty brilliance soared into the sky. However, the difference was that the ice mirror's brilliance rushed straight towards the rapidly flickering yin-yang fish, while the magic treasure furnace spewed out 100 zhang long pillar of fire to attack the black earth character. Xiaohua himself was not idle. Inside the dragon veins, Xiaohua urged the dragon transformation secret art. The golden essence of gold turned into spiritual qi of heaven and earth and rushed into his dantian. At the same time, the heavenly infusion technique was also pushed to the limit. Unexpectedly, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth was also produced in the void and directly poured into his body. Xiaohua urged the Transcendence Golden Body and waved the wishful staff to attack the earth character. Seeing that it was about to collide with the 5 paths of ascension, Xiaohua actually sneered again. He opened his mouth, and a red and yellow spiritual fire turned into a layer of fire net and flew towards the auspicious cloud of the 5 paths of origin. Xiaohua wanted to use his own strength to resist the 5 paths of ascension. Seeing Xiaohua's endless means, Langchinga's eyeballs almost fell out. What kind of Taoist cultivator is this? He is simply a cultivator with many treasures. He had never seen a Taoist cultivator before.
No, not to mention a Taoist cultivator, even among Confucian cultivators, who could control so many imperial equipment. Moreover, seeing that each of Xiao Hua's magic treasures was so powerful, not to mention the innate true water that made Langchinga not dare to look at it. Not to mention the hundreds of flying swords that were filled with righteous qi. Not to mention the green and yellow spiritual fire that looked even more simple than the five-colored auspicious cloud. Just the golden body of Xiao Hua waving the wishful staff made Langchinga's heart tremble. Today we must kill this child. Langchinga's eyes flashed with a fierce light. Today, either you die or I die. If we let this child escape today, the bronze pillar state will be destroyed by his hands. Fellow Immortal, Xianxia shouted, let us quickly prepare. If we do not win in one move, we must make the Son of Heaven angry and kill Xiao Hua.
It can't be?
Shi Buahong cried out in surprise. How could this bastard escape from the 5 paths of ascension?
It's better to be safe than sorry. Before Langchinga's voice could be heard, the 5 brocade cloud painting shook violently. The brilliance was like a mountain collapsing and the earth splitting. The 5 people were unable to stand still in midair. The powerful impact completely tore the 5-colored cloud brocade in the 5 brocade cloud painting into a mess. The chaotic qi rushed in all directions, and the chaotic brilliance was everywhere. It was so dazzling that the 5 people could not even open their eyes.
Rip! It seemed to be an extremely weak sound of the brocade tearing, but to the 5 people's ears, it was even more difficult to accept than a bolt from the blue.
Langchinga and the others were unable to stabilize their bodies. They first looked at their hands, only to see that on the 5 scrolls, not only did the 5 characters of the great Confucian scholars completely lose their righteous qi, but the scrolls themselves also had countless small cracks. The scrolls turned into flying fragments in front of the 5 people's eyes, and these fragments were swept away by the fierce wind without a trace. How is this possible?
Bai Ho Yuqin whispered, her small mouth wide open.
Quickly! Let us prepare!
Langchinga hurriedly urged, not caring about the paper fragments that were blown away by the fierce wind. Shi Buahong indifferently said, I feel that there is no need.
The entire 5 brocade cloud painting was almost destroyed. Can Xiao Hua survive? There! Over there! Bai Ho Yuqin's eyes flashed with a water-blue brilliance, looking towards a corner of the Black Wind Ridge. The joy in her voice seemed to be more than surprise, but she saw a 90-foot-tall giant whose body was riddled with hundreds and thousands of holes. Even his head was split open. Still tenaciously flashing with a golden light, he somewhat staggered up from the ground, and was currently struggling to rush up into the sky. Everyone almost didn't dare to believe their eyes. That was the full-strength attack of 5 cultivators comparable to a 5th-grade essence energy cultivator. Those were the authentic writings of the great Confucian scholars. It was already difficult for them to face just one of them. How could this Tao sect cultivator in front of them be able to withstand the 5 sons ascending the throne that they had never used before? Impossible, impossible! Could it be that this Xiao Hua has the body of a fiend god? The flames in Shi Buahong's eyes were now dim without any light. His body's true qi, Xiao Hua, was very large. Although he had already reached the realm of refining qi back to spirit, after all, he still couldn't refine his spirit back to emptiness, so it was difficult for him to support such a large array that consumed true qi. Chapter 35-23. Impossible. Beigo Zhenming smiled lightly, and then he pointed with his finger and said, based on Xiao Hua's current situation, even if the 5 scrolls were unable to take his life, they've blasted him to the point he's completely exhausted. If fellow Immortal has the heart, then you can descend and kill him right now. This great contribution will be yours, fellow Immortal. Shi Buahong's heart skipped a beat, but his body was as steady as a boulder. He didn't even move. Xiao Hua's body looked very weak at this moment, but on his cracked face, the unyielding fighting spirit seemed to be real. It made everyone not dare to look at him directly. Among the 5 people, no one dared to challenge him. No, this Xiao Hua is a bit strange. Jiang Yuming frowned, his eyes flashing with deep doubt. Xiao Hua's injuries are so serious. Why
Why is there not a trace of blood on his body?
"Io, that's right," Shi Buahong also exclaimed.
Even if he used a Taoist Dharma idol, this Dharma idol is a physical body, not an illusion. If the Dharma idol is injured, there must be traces of blood. A Taoist secret technique.
Bai Ho Yuqin said faintly.
This Xiao Hua is baiting us. Don't think too much.
Lang Chinga's eyes flickered with uncertainty.
He shouted, "We still have the 5 brocade cloud painting, don't think about luck. Hurry up and prepare for the wrath of the emperor." At this point, Lang Chinga glanced at Bai Ho Yuqin and Beigo Zhenming, and said faintly, "For this final attack, we must work together, don't slack off."
"Yes, we understand." Beigo Zhenming and Bai Ho Yuqin's hearts trembled, and they immediately replied with Jiang Yuming and the others. Seeing the 5 people disappear into the clouds, Xiao Hua, who was struggling to fly in the air, felt relieved. He hurriedly endured the indescribable pain all over his body, and urged the medicinal power in his body, as well as the Dharma idol technique, to repair his Dharma idol. Even the blood drop paradise in his bloodline was repairing his physical body under the full power of the devil spirit. In Xiao Hua's heart, the dangerous scene from before was still difficult to erase for a long time. Xiao Hua's simultaneous use of several divine abilities had long surpassed the ability of a nascent soul cultivator. However, these divine abilities were different from each other. The sword intent of the 9 flying swords deduced the 9 stars transiting the sun. After all, it couldn't compare to the real swords playing the world. Furthermore, Xiao Hua himself couldn't transform into a sword to forcefully resist the law character sword net. Several hundred sword silhouettes rushed into the sky and took the lead to collide with the sword net. This collision was the beginning of the entire formation's shaking. In terms of sword intent alone, 9 stars transit was not necessarily inferior to 1 Xie's. The hundreds of sword shadows were like lonely plum blossoms standing proudly in the wind and snow. However, the sword net was even more powerful because of the bombardment of the noble spirit. This incomparably sharp force was admittedly shattered by the 9 stars transit of the sun, but the sharpness of the 9 stars transit of the sun was also worn down. In the blink of an eye, the shattered sword net rushed past the 9 stars transit of the sun and pierced towards Xiao Hua's golden body. 9 stars transit wasn't the most miserable. Immediately after, it collided with 1 Xie's nascent soul was the cauldron operated by Xiao Hua's nascent soul. This cauldron was obtained from Taoist Jianghu. Xiao Hua's nascent soul only erased the divine sense imprint within it and used the cauldron to contain the frigid ice flame. He didn't specially temper it. Now that he activated the cauldron, the frigid ice flame in the cauldron's flames was indeed monstrous. However, when it truly rushed onto the earth character Wen Xie's nascent soul, it only defeated 30% of the noble spirit. Moreover, the cauldron emitted runes that gushed out like a tide under the control of the green-robed Xiao Hua's nascent soul. These runes flickered with an intense might and forcibly extinguished the remaining 30% of the noble spirit. However, that green-robed Taoist Jingru's nascent soul was far from being able to resist the gravity of that green-robed Taoist Jingru's nascent soul. The remaining power of Wan Xie's nascent soul forcibly shattered the cauldron. Even so, a small mouthful of golden blood gushed out from the nascent soul's mouth. However, just as the blood was spat out, the green-robed Xiao Hua immediately abandoned the cauldron and spat it onto the icy mirror. The icy mirror shone brightly and 3 rays of light vibrated, creating a rumbling sound as they struck the yin-yang fish. The yin-yang fish's light and dark rays suppressed the icy mirror's 3 rays of light, but the 3 rays of light also suppressed the yin-yang fish's light and dark rays. Even the icy mirror's surface started to crack under the yin-yang fish's pressure. Seeing that the icy mirror was not a match for the yin-yang fish, the green-robed Xiao Hua hastily pointed his finger at the overturning sea seal that Xiao Hua had left in the air as a backup. Under the coiling dragon's control, the seal expanded to several dozen zhong in size and slammed into the boundary between the yin-yang fish. Under the power of the light and dark rays, the seal finally cooperated with the icy mirror to kill Wen Xie. The most relaxed one was the innate primordial water. Perhaps Bai Ho's jade zither was a little merciful, or perhaps the noble spirit river was originally restrained by the innate primordial water. When the primordial water soared into the sky, the noble spirit river fell into the primordial water and disappeared. Only the powerful impact mixed with the starlight scattered the primordial water. Of course, Xiao Hua himself was not idle. The wishful staff danced,
and at the same time the cauldron was shattered by the scroll, it suddenly struck into the air. The earth scroll was completely destroyed by the wishful staff. After that, Xiaohua's calamity came. The law sword light fell from the sky and covered the earth. Xiaohua waved the wishful staff and tried to knock down as many sword lights as possible, but in the sword net, Xiaohua's transcendence golden body was still penetrated by many sword lights. In particular, although the yin-yang fish and the earth scroll were damaged, the suppressive power inside still fell on Xiaohua's transcendence golden body through the void. Xiaohua struggled to rely on the protective golden light and the transcendence golden body to resist. His transcendence golden body was inevitably torn apart, and even his head was cracked open. The reason why Xiaohua could only use his physical body to resist the sword net was that he used all the spiritual power in his body on the red and yellow spiritual fire. Xiaohua's most powerful means now should be the blood devil blade on his left arm. But in front of the true writings of the 5 great scholars, the blood devil blade was of little value. Therefore, the dual-colored spiritual fire became Xiaohua's most useful means now. The Confucian, written by the great scholar, Kong Liwen, formed the auspicious cloud of the 5 Qis unification. This 5-colored auspicious cloud connects the 4 scrolls together and also fuses with the 5 brocade cloud painting. This is already the key to solving the 5 Suns imperial examinations. If Xiaohua wants to live, he can only focus his energy on this Confucian character. Therefore, Xiaohua used the ancient fire control art to release the spiritual fire, urging all the gold attribute spiritual energy of heaven and earth in his meridians to immediately turn the spiritual fire into a fire net that was dozens of feet in size. That fire net caught the 5-colored auspicious cloud that was slowly descending. This auspicious cloud was very strange. The 5 colors were balanced, and the boundless Qi pillar was not as arrogant as the other 4 scrolls. It was abnormally steady, especially the starlight in the auspicious cloud, which was far more vigorous than Xiaohua's imagination. Xiaohua felt that even if he used the wishful staff, it would be impossible to destroy this 5-colored auspicious cloud. The 5-colored auspicious cloud was strange, and the dual-colored spiritual fire was even more mysterious. The spiritual fire just held the auspicious cloud, and the fire and earth colors in the auspicious cloud immediately melted. The other 3 colors also swayed slightly, like a light cloud that was about to disperse. However, the spiritual fire was not completely successful. The auspicious cloud still carried endless power, and it was impossible for it to fall. Obviously, even if Xiaohua's transcendence golden body was already damaged, the auspicious cloud still wanted to suppress it. At this time, Xiaohua could only spit out the 3 heavenly hearts that he had not yet completely controlled. As soon as these 3 heavenly hearts appeared, the 5-colored auspicious cloud instantly collapsed. 3 of the colors were absorbed by the heavenly hearts, and the boundless Qi also fell into the heavenly hearts. Seeing that there was a gap, the green-robed Xiaohua next to him actually had the strength to spare. Under the starry sky, a small amount of lightning appeared in the space where the waves of Qi rolled, and together with the spiritual fire, it destroyed the calligraphy of the scholarly great scholar. The scholarly calligraphy was destroyed, and the other surviving scrolls also suffered a disaster. While Xiaohua was hit by the law sword net and the boundless Qi, he used his last bit of magical power. A green light flashed between his eyebrows, and the green seal text obliterated all the remaining inscriptions, and even the scrolls were destroyed. The valiant Xiaohua, with his valiant battle record, had suppressed the 5 scholarly cultivators. But although he had suppressed them, seeing the 5 scholarly cultivators disappear again, Xiaohua's mind turned sharply, secretly calculating what other powerful methods they had. However, after thinking for a moment, Xiaohua really couldn't think of what other powerful methods these 5 and the many scholarly cultivators behind the 5 brocade cloud painting could have. Humph, this Xiao is an arrow at the end of its flight. How much better are you? Xiaohua sneered. Even if this Xiao's nascent soul is now extremely weak and can no longer come out, this Xiao still has the metal essence in his meridians, and this Xiao's physical body still has the strength of 10,000 catties. Even if I have to exhaust, I will exhaust you all to death. At the very least, this Xiao still has the Buddhist sect's methods. Amitabha, this Xiao once again had delusional thoughts. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Please forgive me. Swoosh. Xiaohua flew another 100 feet or so. Suddenly, at the top of the 5 brocade cloud painting, a golden light appeared. Immediately, that golden light was like a blazing sun, illuminating the entire great formation. A power even colder and more ruthless than pressure was emitted from that golden light, and along with the brilliance, it spread across the entire great formation.
What is this? Xiao Hua was shocked in his heart. He didn't know what kind of method Lang Qingge had used.
Rumble.
At the same time that golden light gradually fell, 5 thunderbolts appeared about 100 feet above Xiao Hua's head. The 5 children appeared in the air again. At this time, the 5 children were also covered in golden light. Moreover, the 5 children had their hands clasped together, and their waists were slightly bowed. It seemed like a kind of respect, a kind of modesty, or a kind of respect. This golden light can actually make the children bow their heads? Xiao Hua was stunned. When the golden light fell slowly, it arrived above the heads of the 5 children. Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and saw clearly that this was a huge 5-dragon imperial jade seal. The 4 sides of the imperial jade seal, as well as the top, each had a golden dragon shape. Inscriptions flowed on the surface of the imperial jade seal. As the inscriptions flowed, strands of golden qi appeared from the void and rushed toward the imperial jade seal. When the golden qi landed on the surface of the imperial jade seal, it turned into thousands of tiny patterns that wrapped around the imperial jade seal. Therefore, although this 5-dragon imperial jade seal was carved from jade, it emitted an intense golden light. Chapter 35-24. When the majestic 5-dragon imperial jade seal arrived above the heads of the 5 sons, the imperial jade seal slightly paused. In an instant, a golden light fell on top of the imperial jade seal. This golden light gave birth to several glittering golden words under the imperial jade seal. It was precisely "Receive the mandate of heaven, live forever and prosper." At the same time, a kind of valiant aura more turbulent than monstrous waves seeped out from these golden words. In an instant, the entire 5-brocade cloud diagram array was shrouded. When the 5 sons become one, you will become the son of heaven. A dignified voice came from an unknown sun. Thus, the 5 sons slowly flew to the 5-dragon imperial jade seal. The 5 sons stretched out their hands. Immediately, an overflowing inscription flowed out from the 5 sons and blended with each other.
Rumble.
Hundreds of tiny thunderbolts appeared in the void. Lightning and tiny crystal threads flashed around the 5 sons and slowly overlapped with each other.
Oh!
As if it came from the throat, a 300-meter-tall giant's face and figure blurred appeared.
After the giant made a sound, it stretched out its hand and held the golden 5-dragon imperial jade seal in the air.
In an instant, the giant's hand emitted a golden brilliance. This brilliance dyed the giant's body in a moment. Then, a son of heaven wearing an imperial robe and a tall crown was born in the air. At the same time, the son of heaven's tightly closed eyes also opened. A dignified gaze swept across the entire array. An aura even more ruthless than the imperial jade seal swept through the entire space.
Damn it!
The son of heaven's gaze fell on Xiao Hua's body and coldly said.
As if the son of heaven's mouth was not joking, a cold and awe-inspiring aura rushed out of the void along with the monarch's words.
One after another, miserable scenes of being beheaded appeared from this awe-inspiring aura. One scene after another, the faint smell of blood and faint screams suddenly appeared. Damn it? Xiao Hua sneered.
Light and shadow appeared around his body again. The Dharma idol grew bigger and bigger.
It actually also grew to a full 300 meter tall.
It was not inferior to the Son of Heaven. He shouted, "My life is in my hands. It can be in the sky, it can also be on the earth, but it will not be in thy hands."
Ha ha ha! What do thou know? All the lands within the 4 seas belong to the king, and all the lands are the king's subjects. The Son of Heaven coldly sneered, "I have received orders from the heavens to bring peace to the world.
You are but a mere commoner, yet you dare to try and stop me? Today, I will let you witness the might of the Son of Heaven."
The Son of Heaven's voice was like thunder, deafening and resonating between heaven and earth. While speaking, the Son of Heaven raised his hand and the 5-dragon imperial jade seal flashed with light that soared into the sky and fell towards Xiao Hua. The 5-dragon imperial jade seal flew into the sky. 5 dragons flew out from the seal and turned into heavenly dragons that were dozens of feet long. They landed below the seal as if they were driving a carriage. Although the imperial jade seal did not change and was still the same as before, The imperial jade seal's brilliance surpassed that of the heavenly dragons. Even the 5 heavenly dragons, which were hundreds of feet long, could not block the imperial jade seal. What was special was that when the 5 dragons held the imperial jade seal once again emitted a yellow light. This light rushed into the 5 dragons and they roared in the sky. An unparalleled imperial power descended from the sky. My world is where I control fate. Under my imperial power, gods and demons can be destroyed. The Son of Heaven roared. Suppress! 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 Following the Son of Heaven's roar, the 5 dragons dragged the imperial jade seal towards Xianxia and suppressed the entire Black Cloud Ridge. In an instant, all living things in the Black Cloud Ridge bowed their heads. Under the imperial power, all living things were ants. Who dared to say no? Even if it was a great scholar, even if it was a literary saint or a literary star, they still had to bow their heads in respect in front of this imperial jade seal formed by fate. The earth is under my feet. The national plan is in my hands. Who dares to say more? Who is the one who will raise the hidden immortal? Who is the one who will dominate the world? Who has a higher battle record than my family? High and mighty, everyone look. My country is as beautiful as a painting. Climbing the mountain and stepping on the fog, laughing and cursing at the sky. Who else but me is worthy of praise? The giant Son of Heaven was impassioned. His eyes flashed with fanaticism. He waved his sleeves and loudly recited, "Whoever blocks my path, I will suppress them forever." Once the Son of Heaven's words came out, all people prostrated themselves. Even the 5 brocade cloud painting trembled rapidly and suddenly shrank into a thin layer, avoiding the sharp edge. Well said. The world was silent, only the roar of the Son of Heaven could be heard. However, Xiaohua laughed loudly and loudly recited, "Xiao is the beginning, I am here, taking away your 10,000 years of freedom." Carved in stone, recorded in the annals of history, how I rebuked. See how I suppress you. Suppress. 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 Similarly, 3 sounds that were even louder than the thunderclap tore apart the majesty of the giant Son of Heaven. However, Xiaohua's body was also flashing with an ochre-yellow brilliance. This brilliance rushed out from the surface of his body, and condensed into a huge dragon figure that was even more solid than the 5 dragons. This dragon figure slightly closed its eyes, like a sleeping dragon in a deep sleep. It circled around Xiaohua's 1,000 feet golden body. Following Xiaohua's 3 shouts, this huge dragon opened its eyes. Thousands of imperial aura suddenly shot out from the dragon's eyes. Moreover, the suppressive power of the dragon's body was even stronger. Roar! The sleeping dragon woke up and roared. The 5 dragons that roared over all crawled in fear. In front of the sleeping dragon, these 5 dragons were merely 5 little loaches. Even the jade seal that shined brightly before was abnormally dim now. It was like a candle before a pearl. After the sleeping dragon roared, it escaped from Xiaohua's golden body and rushed into the sky. It swallowed the 5 dragons and the jade seal in one gulp. Then, the sleeping dragon swung its tail and hit the stunned giant Son of Heaven in the sky. Boom! With a loud bang, the giant Son of Heaven collapsed under this fate that was 100 times stronger than his. 5 words, slowly separated. However, before the 5 words could appear, it collapsed again. The already shattered 5 brocade cloud painting couldn't withstand the dragon's aura anymore and shattered. After the cloud painting, many people were revealed in disbelief. Roar! The sleeping dragon flew back to Xiaohua's golden body and roared again. It lowered its head and disappeared into the golden body's head. Although Xiaohua's golden body was still covered in wounds, who would dare to underestimate it now? Xianxia, hand over your life. Xiaohua did not retract his golden avatar. With a thought, the sword gourd rushed out from the void. The object with a nose and eyes appeared on the sword gourd. Green and red spirit execution yuan light shot out from the sword gourd and pierced towards Xianxia's neck. Who would have thought that while Xianxia was trembling in fear, a golden aura shot out from the top of his head. The golden spear swayed and blocked the spirit execution yuan light, preventing it from falling. Furthermore, Xianxia saw that Xiaohua was going to kill him. Auspicious clouds appeared under his feet as he prepared to escape. This Xiao might not be a match for you in a round-robin battle,
But if it's a one-on-one battle, Xianxia, even 10 of you won't be a match for this Xiao. This Xiao has been waiting for you for so long to establish my might. Now it's time for you to die. Xiaohua sneered. He reached out his hand and used the heaven and earth sleeve technique. Rumble. The golden spear was actually grabbed by Xiaohua. As the golden aura was broken, Xianxia's eyes immediately became lifeless. He was dumbstruck and didn't move anymore. The spirit execution yuan light fell and chopped off Xianxia's head. There was a clear pu sound. There was no blood coming out from Xianxia's neck. There was only a golden light that shot up into the sky. A golden primordial spirit was about to escape, but just as it appeared, it stood in the air as if its soul had been stolen. The green-red spirit execution yuan light didn't hesitate. It slashed through the air and the primordial spirit execution yuan light was sucked into the spirit execution yuan light and disappeared. Pooh! Only then did Xianxia's hot blood spurt out from his neck. Blood splattered everywhere. Humph! Xiaohua snorted coldly. Light flashed around his body as he descended from the sky. He retracted his transcendence golden body and held the sword gourd in his hand as he coldly looked at everyone. No one dared to move. No one dared to beg for mercy. No one dared to provoke him. Even the flames in Shi Buohong's eyes disappeared, revealing two skeleton-like black holes. With a wave of his hand, Xiaohua took Xianxia's chenkuan pouch and took out a silk handkerchief. He raised his head and made a grabbing motion in the air. The five-colored cloud brocade in the sky abruptly shrank and transformed into a diagram in front of Xiaohua. Xiaohua glanced at Bai Hou Yuqin and lightly said, "Bai Hou Yuqin, it seems like you like the 5-chi thunder." Hearing Xiaohua call her Bai Hou Yuqin, Bai Hou Yuqin's heart calmed down. She didn't dare to be negligent and quickly took out the silk handkerchief. She respectfully handed it to Xiaohua and said, "This concubine doesn't dare. This concubine is a defeated person. I will listen to Xiao. Taoist Zhao's punishment." Bai Hou Yuqin was truly convinced to call Xiaohua Taoist Master Xiao. She did not dare to call Xiaohua Taoist Master Xiao as an equal. Xiaohua took the silk handkerchief and put it away without even looking at it. He nodded and said, "Fellow Taoist, you were forced by the royal power. Even if you were forced by the situation, I will not lower myself to your level. However, this Xiao will be the imperial advisor of Jiang country in the future. You will have to avoid the army of Jiang country." Yes, this concubine knows. Bai Hou Yuqin's heart was completely at ease. Taoist Master Xiao, you don't have to worry about this. From now on, the battle between Copper Pillar State and Jiang country is limited to the battle between soldiers and generals. Copper Pillar State has already lost the right to compete with Taoist Master. All right. Leave behind a copy of your Water Qi Chao Yuan cultivation technique and your ordinary Confucian cultivation manuals. You can leave now. Xiaohua nodded slightly and instructed. This. Bai Hou Yuqin was stunned, but she only hesitated for a moment before taking off her chenkuan bag. After taking out some things from it, she respectfully handed them over to Xiaohua and said, "Many thanks for Taoist's kindness." "Hee, you're welcome." Xiaohua was overjoyed. He took the heaven and earth pouch and laughed. "When this Xiao is free, I will go to your Ling Yuanya and disturb you. This concubine will be waiting for Taoist Master." Bai Hou Yuqin bowed and left. She didn't want to stay here any longer, so she brought her disciples and left on a cloud. After Bai Hou Yuqin left, Shi Bohong glanced at Zhang Yuming who was shrinking at the back, as well as Beigo Zhenming. He took a step forward and said indifferently, "Taoist Master Xiao, I can give you the flaming brocade cloud painting, but I cannot hand over the fire Qi Chao Yuan cultivation technique." Chapter 35-25. Xiaohua's face was as calm as water. He looked up and down at Shi Buohong and said coldly, "You don't have to show off your unyielding attitude in front of me. To tell you the truth, no matter how forthright you are, when you made the broken tooth beast self-destruct, you couldn't be the same as Bai Hou Yuqin. If you don't want to leave behind the cultivation technique, then I can only take it myself." A spark flashed in Shi Buohong's black eyes, but in the end, this spark did not dare to turn into a pillar of fire. After a while, Shi Buohong took out a chenkuan bag and obediently handed it to Xiaohua. You can leave now.
Xiaohua took the universe bag and said coldly.
Thank you, Taoist master.
Shi Buahong cupped his hands, turned around and took 2 steps, then turned back and said, Actually, Taoist master might not know, but when he blew up the broken-tooth beast, I also felt heartache. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have come. Xiaohua ignored him and said indifferently, tempted by benefits, this is the outcome. Perhaps if you understand this point, you will have the qualifications to fight with me. Sigh, I've learned my lesson. Shi Buahong let out a long sigh, his body flashed with flames, and he also left with his disciples. Xiaohua raised his head, looked at Beigua Zhenming and Dou Shanjun behind him, thought for a moment, then waved his hand and said, A few days ago, I have offended the Copper Pillar Academy, you can go. No need. Unexpectedly, Beigua Zhenming shook his head and said, Wrong is wrong, right is right. That day, my Copper Pillar Academy put the law first and insisted on ruling the country according to law, but the Taoist master put reason first and insisted on taking revenge. The methods of the Taoist master. It's considered light. With that, Beigua Zhenming raised his hand, and similarly, a universe bag was respectfully handed over to Xiaohua. When Xiaohua received it, he said, My Copper Pillar Academy has a collection of millions of books. When I return to the academy, I will have my disciples send the copies to the Black Wind Ridge. Xiaohua was overjoyed. He bowed and said, Thank you, headmaster. I don't dare. Beigua Zhenming hurriedly returned the greeting and said, I have a presumptuous request, I hope you will listen to it. Hee, it seems that I can't take this book for nothing. Xiaohua smiled. Headmaster, please speak. The war between the Jiang country and the Copper Pillar country is a war between countries. Although the Copper Pillar Academy is the Imperial Academy of the Copper Pillar Nation, I still have some restraint in the matters of war and do not allow students of the academy to participate. Xiaohua frowned slightly and said with a smile, Then why did Lord Academy Head come to Black Wind Ridge? Admiring the moon and flowers? If there's anything you need, please feel free to tell me. Beigua Zhenming's face turned hot, and he smiled. I only ask. Discuss with the Taoist master. If the Jiang country destroys the Copper Pillar state, will the Jiang country be able to keep my Copper Pillar Academy? This. Xiaohua ponders for a moment, then says with a smile, It shouldn't be a problem, it's just an academy. Who knows how many academies there are in the entire hidden Immortal continent? One more Copper Pillar Academy doesn't matter. One less Copper Pillar Academy doesn't matter either. However, I will not interfere in this matter. If there is such a possibility later on, you can explain it to the royal family of Jiang country. Beigua Zhenming was overjoyed. He bowed and said, I thank you on behalf of the tens of thousands of students of the academy. Go. Xiaohua laughed. Watch more, speak more, experience more of the people's livelihood. It's better than any scheming in the imperial court. Beigua Zhenming brought the students of the Copper Pillar Academy and left. Dou Shanjun had flown far away, and even slightly tilted his head to glance at Xiaohua. The expression on his face was complicated, and no one knew what he was thinking. In the end, only the Jiang family from the Copper Pillar state was left. The old scholar from the Jiang family, who had previously vowed to kill Xiaohua, had an ashen face as he stood there, watching Beigua Zhenming and the others leave one after another, his eyes filled with envy. When Xiaohua's gaze landed on Jiang Yuming gritted his teeth and flew over, bowing. Taoist Master Xiao, I know that the Jiang family has a great enmity with the Taoist Master, but, according to what I know, it's not too secretive. It's just that some of the Jiang family's little villains are plotting against the Seven Sons Temple. And it has nothing to do with my Jiang family's patriarch and the other direct descendants. As the saying goes, a finger that stretches out is not of an ordinary length. My Jiang family really can't guarantee that there won't be scum like Jiang Wenhao in the future. Taoist Master, I don't dare to say anything about him, but I can guarantee that I will give Taoist Master an explanation. Xiaohua stared at Jiang Yuming, seeing that Jiang Yuming's scalp was numb and his neck was cold. He was really afraid that the sword gourd in Xiaohua's hand would suddenly shoot out the soul extermination vital light. This thing was too sharp, and the current him was definitely not a match for it. When Xiaohua's gaze swept across the other old scholars, they all shrunk their necks, not daring to say anything. After a long while, Xiaohua sighed and said, Jiang Yuming, I won't hide it from you.
When I first saw the corpse of the Seven Suns Temple's old Taoist and knew that it was your Jiang family's disciples who did it, I wanted nothing more than to kill your Jiang family's disciples one by one. Since I dared to kill my way into the Copper Pillar State Academy, I naturally dare to kill my way into your Jiang family. I know that although you are begging for mercy, you might not be truly afraid in your heart, and your Jiang family must have a way to protect themselves. You are betting that I might not die together with your Jiang family for the Seven Suns Temple's old Taoist. If that's what you think, then you are wrong. Xianxia dared to kill the state preceptor of the Copper Pillar State Academy, and dared to make an enemy out of an entire country. You simply don't know how to write the word, fear. Jiang Yuming's face instantly turned pale, and his teeth slightly bit his lips. Unfortunately. Xianxia looked at Jiang Yuming's face and shook his head again. Jiang Yuming, you are still wrong. Our Dao sex cultivators are not like what you think they are, killing people as if they were flax, and repaying kindness and enmity as they please. In this world, there are right and wrong, and the heavenly Dao will uphold justice. If I were to exterminate your Jiang family one by one, I'm afraid that even the old Taoist who has always been kind and benevolent wouldn't be willing. Therefore, you all should return and quickly kill everyone involved in this matter. Remember, including the person behind Jiang Wenhao, no matter who it is, kill them all. Then, offer their heads respectfully to the Seven Suns Temple. Moreover, this matter must be engraved into a stele and erected in front of the Seven Suns Temple. Jiang Yuming's expression changed greatly. Xianxia's request truly made things difficult for him. After all, once the stele was inscribed, the Jiang family would lose all face. He didn't dare to agree without permission, and hurriedly said with a smile, Taoist master, you can kill them, and you can also offer their heads. This stele inscription. Humph, it must be written down without missing a single word. Xianxia sneered. I won't hide it from you. I originally wanted to exterminate your Jiang family to establish my might, but who would have thought that the state preceptor of the Bronze Pillar country would actually come forward? He could be considered to have died in your place. If the Jiang family can't even agree to this, then don't blame me for not showing mercy. Sigh. Jiang Yuming turned around to look at his uncles. Everyone exchanged glances and sighed. This matter involves the family head, so I don't dare to casually agree. However, I will definitely persuade the family head to agree. Good. When Xianxia heard this, he didn't dawdle. He waved his hand and said, Since you agree, leave your Chenkuan pouches and go. Remember, you only have one choice between washing your neck and erecting the stele inscription. Yes, I understand. I will take my leave. Jiang Yuming knew that he had no other choice. He respectfully handed over his Chenkuan pouch to Xianxia, cupped his hands, and dejectedly left. Looking at the backs of Jiang Yuming and the others, Xianxia sneered. He had become famous through this battle. He didn't believe that the Jiang family would dare to disagree. When everyone was far away, Xiaohua's figure slightly swayed. The golden light around his body instantly dimmed, and a painful expression appeared on his face. The 5 scrolls of the 5 Suns Imperial Examination Scroll were too powerful. Not only did Xiaohua completely block them, he even shattered them. Xiaohua himself also suffered heavy injuries. And in the end, Leng Qingge actually used the Bronze Pillar country's fate to suppress him. This made Xiaohua secretly obedient. Under the stimulation of the Imperial Jade Seal's fate, Xiaohua also activated the Dragon Vein to be arrogant once. However, the price of this arrogance was that Xiaohua's injuries were even more severe. In fact, Xiaohua could be considered a paper tiger just now. He was truly an arrow at the end of its flight when he activated the Execution Spirit Origin Light. But fortunately, his aura was like a rainbow. Beigo Zhenming and the others were already afraid. Who would dare to challenge him? Xiaohua returned to his original form. His body flashed with golden light, covering all his injuries. Only then did he land in front of the Black Wind Ridge. At this time, the Black Wind Ridge was no longer the Black Wind Ridge of the past. Not to mention the Black Wind Ridge, even the entire Black Cloud Ridge had completely changed. Not only did the 5 brocade cloud paintings Grand Qi blow away all the black clouds, it even caused the majority of the mountain peaks to collapse. There were even more mountain springs and hills that appeared out of thin air. Xiaohua's divine sense swept across. The entire Black Cloud Ridge was in a mess,
as if thousands of indomitable giants had stepped over here. Looks like the ruler of the Bronze Pillar Nation is already confident. After the annexation of the Jiang country, it will be the Jianghu country's turn. This last bit of cover will be torn apart. Xiaohua smiled faintly. He waved his hand, and a few rays of light flashed past. Rumble! With a few loud sounds, hundreds of rays of light flew out from all directions and landed in Xiaohua's hands. The capital star formation was removed, revealing the black wind ridge under the protection of the Great Formation. Although Xiaohua's capital star formation was powerful, it was not complete after all. Furthermore, it was set up using hundreds of jade talismans, and under the attack of the 5 brocade cloud painting, which was equivalent to the Immortal Palace formation, it also revealed a flaw. A portion of the capital star formation was destroyed by the Grand Qi Pillar, and many spirit demons were killed or injured. These spirit demons were from the Black Wind Ridge, Mo Yun Ridge and Lion Mountain. The capital star formation did not block the vision of the crowd and the demons. Everyone could see Xiaohua's majestic posture in the air. Compared to the fear of the people of the Bronze Pillar Nation, what they gained was confidence and pride. They had never seen a person or a demon with such unfathomable abilities. They had never seen a person or a demon that could directly face the entire formation. Especially when they understood that the reason the Bronze Pillar Nation had set up such a large formation in the Black Cloud Ridge was to take all of their lives. Their gratitude, respect, and worship towards Xiaohua had already reached an unparalleled level. So much so that when Xiaohua removed the Great Formation, there was no need for the Black Bear Spirit to speak. Everyone and all the demons knelt on the ground and shouted like a mountain, "We await Master's return!" Chapter 35-26. No one in the entire Black Wind Mountain range said a word of thanks. It was just a simple sentence, but Xiaohua understood that this was the kind of sincerity these people and demons had. They were treating him as their true master. "All right, stand up." Xiaohua waved his hand. He did not use any power, but everyone and all the Yao stood up in unison without any hesitation. It was as though there was a mountain of blades and a sea of fire in front of them. If Xiaohua gave the order, they would charge forward. Xiaohua slowly floated to the front of the cave and landed there. Lu Yi and Wang Bianfei were very clever. They had already brought out a chair from the cave and waited for Xiaohua to sit down. The two of them respectfully stood to the left and right of Xiaohua. Xiaohua sat upright on the chair and looked around. Looking at the demons that covered the mountains and plains, he had an inconceivable feeling in his heart. He originally wanted to prosper the Dao sect, but who would have thought that there were only a few Dao sect cultivators who came, but this demon had gathered a bunch of them. Compared to his expectations of just having the Black Bear Spirit to guard the sect, this was far greater. "Black Bear," Xiaohua called coolly. "Old Master, this one is here." Hearing Xiaohua call him first after sitting down, the Black Bear Spirit was moved to tears. He hurriedly scrambled out from the side and knelt on the ground. "Golden Eagle, White Lion, where are you?" Xiaohua looked and nodded slightly at the Black Bear Spirit and called out again. The Golden Eagle Great King and Myriad Lion King did not dare to be negligent. They rushed over and knelt behind the Black Bear Spirit, calling out, "This one is here. What orders does Old Master have?" "From today onwards, the Black Cloud Ridge is truly our Black Cloud Ridge. This is this old man's cave." "God the surroundings for this old man," Xiaohua said with a smile. The Black Bear Spirit, Golden Eagle Great King and Myriad Lion King were overjoyed. They kowtowed and said, "This one is willing to die for Old Master." "And go. Take your troops and tidy up this Black Cloud Ridge. Do not lose this old man's face," Xiaohua ordered. "This one understands." The 3 Yao Kings received the order and led the Yao down Black Wind Ridge. Under the Black Bear Spirit's arrangements, they each chose a direction and started to tidy up. Xiao Jian, Chongling, Qin Xiaoyao. Xiaohua spoke again. "Old Master." The 3 hurriedly walked in front of Xiaohua and knelt down. The Chongling princess did not dare to act like a princess. "This old man has killed the imperial advisor of the Copper Pillar State. It can be considered as me reclaiming some face for Jianghu," Xiaohua said with a smile. Just now, the headmaster of the Imperial Academy of the Bronze Pillar country made it clear that from now on, it is time for all of you to fight and conquer.
The king of the Bronze Pillar country will no longer use the power of the Confucian cultivators against you.
The Chongling princess bit her lips hard. She was so excited she wanted to shout.
She hurriedly said, Chongling thanks Old Master for acting.
Chongling will not disappoint Old Master, recover my country, and destroy Copper Pillar country.
Master, don't be careless. Xiao Jian seemed to think for a long time before he spoke again.
The Copper Pillar country's formation is beyond my expectations. The Copper Pillar country's king's goal is not small. Even if he lost the imperial teacher, he might have other methods and cultivators. At the side, the Chongling Duchess opened her mouth as though she wanted to say something. But when she saw Xiao Hua's tired expression, she closed her mouth.
Xiao Hua smiled and said, This old man knows.
With this old man here, you do not have to be afraid of this. After this battle, I fear no one will come to provoke us in the short term. You all should hurry. This old man is tired and needs to rest for a while. You will have to rely on yourselves.
Yes, this one knows.
Xiao Jian and Chongling nodded and said, We wish Old Master's saintly body good health. No matter. Just seclusion for a while.
Xiao Hua waved his hand for them to leave.
Then he stood and said, Qin Xiaoyao, come in with this old man.
Yes.
Qin Xiaoyao hurriedly stood and walked behind Xiao Hua. Lu Yi and Wang Bianfei once again took chairs and walked behind. After entering the residence, Xiao Hua sat down. He looked at Qin Xiaoyao and said with a smile, This old man needs to be in seclusion for a while. Xiao Jian and Chongling will be responsible for the war. I fear I will have to trouble you with the matters of the Dao soldiers and the sections. This is this disciple's duty. I will not shirk even if I die 10,000 times. Xiao Hua's abilities were many times stronger than Qin Haoyue's. How could Qin Xiaoyao not know the choice? He hurriedly bowed and said, This old man does not know how to train Dao soldiers and the like, so I will not speak. Xiao Hua waved his hand and took out a small universe bag. He handed it to Qin Xiaoyao and said, These are some pills and methods. Take them to your disciples. And, if possible, you can take those disciples into your sect, and a few with similar cultivation to you as your junior sect brothers. Also, you can pick some of the talented ones among those Dao soldiers to be your third-generation disciples. Yes, this disciple understands. Qin Xiaoyao was so excited his body trembled. Xiao Hua's meaning was clear. You all count as this old man's outer sect disciples. Xiao Hua said with a smile, This old man does not plan on taking so many of you as disciples. Yes, this disciple understands. This disciple is already endlessly grateful. How could Qin Xiaoyao not know the difficulty of being accepted into the sect? Right, also these are some talismans. You can divide them among yourselves. See who can use what. Remember, do not randomly snatch and be greedy. Xiao Hua said as he thought of something. He waved his hand and took out some talismans that Xiao Hua repaired and placed them into the small universe bag. Qin Xiaoyao received the small universe bag gratefully. He scanned it with his divine sense and his face almost turned pale. He said with a trembling voice, Master, why so many? It's nothing. Xiao Hua said with a proud smile. Feel free to recruit Dao soldiers. This old man can help you forge this Dao soldier into hidden Immortal Continent's #1 soldier. Many thanks, Master. Qin Xiaoyao knelt and kowtowed. There are also pills that you want to use inside. Feel free to take them. These things are all up to you. Xiao Hua said with a smile. Lu Yi and the others, you don't have to pay attention to them. Yes, this disciple understands. Qin Xiaoyao looked at Lu Yi and Wang Bianfei with some envy. Go. Xiao Hua waved his hand. This old man is in seclusion. Without Lu Yi and Wang Bianfei's call, you can't enter. This disciple will follow Master's orders. Qin Xiaoyao's tone was the same as the Black Bear spirit's. But just as he took half a step back, he thought of something and probed. Master, from what I hear, you want to establish a Dao sect. This disciple also hopes that there will be a Dao sect on hidden Immortal Continent. But our sect, does it have a name? We can't use Jiang country, or the name of the former Qin ancestor. Xiao Hua pondered for a moment and said, Then let's call it the Fortune Gate.
Yes, the gate of good fortune is exactly what Master wants.
Xianxia was overjoyed. He turned around and was about to leave, but after taking 2 steps, Xianxia thought of something and hurriedly turned around.
He smiled and said, Master, and this disciple said before.
To be the master of a country, you need the approval of others.
This old man doesn't need the approval of others.
Xiaohua said with a faint smile.
Yes, this disciple understands.
Xianxia also knew that with Xiaohua's strength, if he wanted to be the master of a country, the other cultivators would not be able to interfere. Seeing Xianxia leave the cave, Xiaohua's eyes turned and he said, "All right, Xiaoyao, what do you need to do for the so-called approval? Go and find out. This old man wants to establish a Dao sect, but I'm afraid it's not something my fortune gate can do alone. It's only right to know as many Dao sect cultivators as possible."
Yes, this disciple understands.
Xiaoyao agreed and left.
Lu Yi, come here. Xiaohua ordered again.
Yes, master. Lu Yi hurriedly stepped forward and bowed, waiting for Xiaohua's orders. Sit down cross-legged and cultivate like normal.
Xiaohua ordered indifferently.
Master. Lu Yi hurriedly shouted, right now. The most important thing for you is to rest and go into seclusion. It won't be too late to talk about this after Master comes out of seclusion. Haha, no need. This old man just wants to take a look. I don't necessarily have to make a move. Although Xiaohua was seriously injured at this time, his soul cultivation power was not lacking at all. As he spoke, he immediately took out his soul bridge. Seeing this, Wang Bianfei hurriedly retreated to the cave's entrance and cautiously guarded there. With the experience of opening Wang Bianfei's spiritual roots, Xiaohua was familiar with activating the soul bridge with the heaven-cleansing earth art. As Xiaohua expected, Lu Yi and Wang Bianfei were the same. Their spiritual roots were sealed by a layer of starlight restriction. This seal was replenished by starlight day and night and would not disappear on its own. Only an external force like Xiaohua's heaven-cleansing earth art could break it. However, other than the strange phenomenon of starlight, the sky full of multicolored light did not appear, and did not attract the attention of others. All right, you can try to sense the world's origin energy. Xiaohua said tiredly as a green light appeared between his eyebrows. Lu Yi tried a little and immediately knelt on the ground, shouting, Disciple Lu Yi thanks Master for giving me a new lease of life. Disciple can now sense the world's origin energy. Good, since it's like this, then take it as cultivating diligently. Let's see who can enter this old man's door first and become a senior brother. Xiaohua said with a smile. Disciple is willing to cultivate with Yuan Bianfei, but I don't want to compete with him. After all, it doesn't matter who becomes the senior brother. It would hurt our feelings for no reason. Lu Yi knew that Xiaohua liked to be straightforward and did not hesitate to say the words in his heart. Xiaohua heard and said, Since you said so, you will be the senior brother. In the future, you and Yuan Bianfei will cultivate hand in hand and progress together. Yes, disciple understands. Master, please go into seclusion. The medicinal pills that Yuan Bianfei used, as well as disciple's previous comprehension, will all be given to him. Lu Yi said with a smile. After Xiaohua finished instructing, he let Lu Yi leave. After he came to the cave, he set down the capital star array jade talisman to protect the entire quiet room. Then he sat cross-legged on the praying mat and patted his head. With a roar, his whole body flashed with a blood-red brilliance. The black flame and demonic blood rushed out of his blood vessels and covered Xiaohua's whole body. Chapter 35-27. Previously, when Xiaohua was fighting with Xianxia and the others in the 5 brocade cloud painting, his blood drop paradise was hidden in his blood vessels. However, after he was injured, some of the black flames and demonic energy leaked out. The vast righteous qi in the formation immediately attacked his blood vessels, making Xiaohua's blood vessels injuries even worse. Moreover, the demons of the demonic realm were all body cultivators. This blood drop paradise was the best at repairing the body. Xiaohua's current injuries could also be healed by this blood drop paradise. It took Xiaohua a full 10 days to completely repair his severely damaged bloodline and fleshly body. Then, Xiaohua reached out and took out Xianxia's Chenkuan pouch. After searching for a bit, He found the method to set up the 5 brocade cloud painting.
Then, with a wave of his hand, the 5 brocade cloud painting flew out of the space.
Xiaohua opened his mouth and breathed a few mouthfuls of true energy on it. The entire cloud painting gradually expanded and covered the quiet room. Although there were 2 types of cloud brocades that looked very thin, the 5 brocade cloud painting was successfully set up. Then, Xiaohua took out 5 silk handkerchiefs. After searching for a bit, he found the method to activate them.
He breathed a few mouthfuls of true energy, and the 5 silk handkerchiefs turned back into the immortal slaying stage with great difficulty.
However, this immortal slaying stage was pitifully small and its appearance was also somewhat blurry. Pooh! Xiaohua opened his mouth again and a sword light hit the immortal slaying stage.
Rumble!
A sound like muffled thunder came from the immortal slaying stage.
However, the entire immortal slaying stage shook for a moment and the 5 chi righteous thunder that Xiaohua was expecting didn't fall.
Little thunder, don't be lazy. Come out. Xiaohua's eyes turned. Then he dragged little lightning out from the space and threw it onto the immortal slaying platform. Sure enough, just as little lightning landed, a thunderclap rumbled from the void and landed on the 5 antennae of the immortal slaying platform. Shortly after, a 5-colored lightning bolt that was only as thick as a thumb descended from the immortal slaying platform. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent and urged his nascent soul to come out of his lower dantian. Although the nascent soul was invisible, Xiaohua could clearly feel that it was dispirited and even showed signs of collapse. When the heavenly lightning landed on the Yuanying, not only was the Yuanying not nourished as Xiaohua had expected, its entire body trembled as if it was about to collapse. Xiaohua was greatly alarmed and hastily invited the green-robed Xiaohua out. Seeing this scene, the green-robed Xiaohua shook his head and said, "Fellow Taoist, you're too hasty." Now that his nascent soul was so weak, how could he directly withstand the 5 chi thunder? Besides, without I controlling the nascent soul, how can you be at ease with him under the heavenly lightning?
Thank you, fellow Taoist.
Jade Archive Xiaohua nodded and said, I have comprehended the 5 Chi's unifications cultivation technique. Hee, fellow Taoist, are you trying to comprehend the 5 Chi's unifications? Fellow Taoist, you're not joking with me, right? Green-robed Xiaohua said with a smile, as far as I know, the scholarly cultivator Xiaohua seems to have made some progress, right? Hee. Jade Archive Xiaohua knew that green-robed Xiaohua was right, so he only laughed and said, then I will go and refine the 9 stars transit. Actually, in I's opinion, you might as well take a look at scholarly books. Green-robed Xiaohua said while controlling his nascent soul and slowly entering his lower dantian. The righteous chi of scholarly cultivators comes from books. If fellow Taoist wants to obtain the essence of scholarly cultivation techniques, you'll have to personally read some of these books. These books aren't of much use to me. While speaking, the nascent soul had already entered his lower dantian. Following the nascent soul, the 5 chi thunder also strangely followed the nascent soul into his lower dantian. However, these heavenly lightning passed through the void and directly struck the nascent soul. However, in his lower dantian, other than the nascent soul, there was also true essence. When the heavenly lightning struck the nascent soul again, Xiaohua felt a strange feeling in his heart. Forget it. There's no need for this Xiao to worry about anything. This Xiao should just study. Xiaohua pulled his mind out and thought for a moment. Then, he took out a book from his small universe bag and started reading. As for inside his body, the green-robed Xiaohua controlled his nascent soul. Under the effects of the 5 chi righteous thunder, the nascent soul was frantically repairing his injuries. Moreover, the nascent soul was growing bit by bit. Although this growth wasn't visible to the naked eye, it was obvious after a long time. Within Xiaohua's meridians, metal essence was also being refined into true essence. This true essence followed the 5 chi thunder and entered the nascent soul's body, becoming the proof of its growth. Within his middle dantian, above the head of scholarly cultivator Xiaohua, the 3-colored heavenly heart slowly rotated. Every day the heavenly heart rotated, 3-colored true essence would be produced and fall into the 5 viscera and 6 bowels near his middle dantian. In front of Xiaohua's eyes, the 3 heavenly tomes were also flickering with brilliance and quietly floating there. The Buddha's Saraira in his Naiwan palace was now chanting Buddhist scriptures and its body was shining with Buddhist light. As for Dragon Vein Xiaohua, he was now sitting on the 5-dragon imperial jade seal. Dragon vein Xiaohua's mouth, nose, and other orifices had a golden mist that was like a dragon breathing in and out. This golden mist was then spat out from Dragon vein Xiaohua's mouth onto the 5-dragon imperial jade seal. The golden mist inside the imperial jade seal would overflow from time to time, as if it was being refined. Within his bloodline, there was a demonic blood spirit that looked very similar to Xiaohua. Right now, its body was also flickering with black flames. It took a very inexplicable posture and stretched out its hands. It looked like it was embracing the world. Endless demonic blood mixed with black flames rushed out from the left side of the demonic spirit's body. At the same time, endless demonic blood mixed with black flames rushed in from the right side of the demonic spirit's body. The demonic spirit's body was moving up and down in a very rhythmic manner. But if someone carefully observed, they would be able to see that this rhythm was 9 shallow and 1 deep. If one carefully thought about it, the demonic spirit's posture was very similar to the old man pushing a cart that Xiaohua liked. Looking at the bone-tempering Xiaohua, he was the most pitiful. His huge body emitted an orange brilliance, and within this brilliance, there was a yellow flow that was constantly being refined. However, on his left arm, there were traces of blood and black mixed together, and a rather eye-catching crack appeared on it. Every time Xiaohua saw this crack, he would gnash his teeth and the yellow flow around his body would accelerate. Clearly, he wanted to mend this crack. Copper Pillar Country, inside the majestic palace, above the majestic palace, not to mention how magnificent the palace was, nor how beautiful the carved beams and painted pillars were, not to mention how orderly the palace was. Whether it was the curtains or the incense, they all revealed a kind of solemnity. Just the dozens of people standing on both sides of the jade steps of the main hall were enough to let people see the strength of the Copper Pillar Country. On the left side of the jade steps, there was a group of civil officials dressed in scholarly robes. The one in front was already over 60 years old, but his appearance was simple and his face was full of righteousness. Although there was a brocade chair beside him, he still stood there with his back straight and held a green jade tablet in his hand. Behind the old man, there were fat or thin, tall or short. Every civil official's brocade robe was different, and the patterns on it were also different. However, the red glow on their faces was completely the same. Contrasting with their glowing faces were the military generals standing opposite the civil officials. These military generals were all clad in bright armor and had an imposing aura. The domineering air they exuded when they puffed out their chests and raised their heads was very obvious. The military generals were generally at least a head taller than the civil officials. Furthermore, their muscles were robust, and they stood there like iron towers and stone pillars. Although these military generals appeared incomparably mighty, if one were to take a closer look, one would be able to see that there were wisps of clear light flashing above each of the civil officials' heads, forming different shapes. Moreover, following these clear light pillars, numerous mighty chi pillars were faintly discernible above the entire royal palace like a tidal wave. Rumbling sounds could be faintly heard. On the other hand, there was nothing unusual as the military generals stood there. However, when the military generals moved slightly, not only would there be the sound of armor clanging, there would also be a mighty chi surging over. The Bronze Pillar Country's civil officials and generals were so imposing, but compared to the Bronze Pillar Country's king, who was sitting on the Jade Dragon throne, they were far inferior. At this moment, there was a middle-aged man about 40 years old sitting on the dragon throne. This person had a square face, and his face was angular. His eyebrows were thick and black, and they were shaped like sharp swords. Under his eyebrows, the black and white in his eyes revealed a sharp glint. It was the intent of a sharp sword. Although this person was wearing a bright yellow dragon robe, there was a layer of golden armor under the dragon robe. The inscriptions on the armor floated slightly, flashing with a myriad of auras. These thousands of chi images floated in front of the dragon throne and immediately rushed into the air. That was where the king's crown was. The king's crown was bright yellow, and strings of crystal-clear pearls were attached to the edges of the crown. The chi images of the inscriptions rushed up, and the bright yellow on the crown swayed slightly. A faint, ding-dong sound could be heard, and the bright yellow color turned into the shape of a faintly discernible dragon. Roar! Perhaps it was in the void, or perhaps it was in people's hearts, but a dragon's roar sounded in the royal palace. A thick dragon rushed out from the king's crown and pierced through the roof of the royal palace. Regardless of whether it was the pure aura of the civil officials or the noble aura of the military generals, all of them bowed down at this moment. When the dragon's roar ended,
the dragon slowly descended and coiled above the monarch's head like a crouching dragon. At this moment, the king opened his mouth and said, "Everyone!" As the king moved, the sleeping dragon above the king's head suddenly moved. Its tightly closed eyes opened, and an indescribable pressure instantly appeared and engulfed the entire royal palace. All the officials bowed and replied, "Long live the king!" "Everyone!" The king raised his hand and looked around with incomparable arrogance. He said calmly, "How's the discussion on the crusade against the Gu kingdom, the Jiming kingdom, the Jiasa kingdom, and the Yifeng kingdom?" "My king!" As soon as the king finished speaking, an old man in his 70s hurriedly stepped out from among the civil officials. He held a jade tablet in his hand and bowed. "I've gathered the assistant ministers of the Ministry of War and discussed with General Hao Hu, General Wen Feng, and the others several times. We've come to a conclusion." "Minister Yu, please speak," the king said with a smile. "You're tuning in to the Wisdom Diary YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.